I think this is a funny thing to talk about before we do this particular podcast, because these are like the everyday problems that people who are listening to these albums are thinking about. And then like, especially the Drake album, like
I'm thinking about clothes.
They're asking you to care about as the listener are so not relatable to somebody who's like, I'm trying to get $1.50 worth of laundry done. And then these two like 1%er assholes are just like clawing each other. Like,
yeah. And the thing,
possibly relate to these problems.
Maybe Logic had a point. Who can relate? But the isn't the point?
I wish you could see the fucking face I made when both of you. I'm so goddamn mad at both of you.
Right now. You got to do it. It's like the Pizza Planet truck in a Pixar movie. You just have to.
God damn.
Oh my god! Wait,
you got to find one. So we're good. You're free.
Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Living off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster.
So I guess we should do a formal-ish introduction. So, Living Off Borrowed Time podcast, Patrick, OptimalAudio, Caleb, and pretty much our usual third guest host at this point, Traviud, Travis, here to talk about do an emergency podcast, because there's nothing more of an emergency than talking about two rich people fighting with each other over
the money fight, yes,
the length of a movie each. So it took Kanye about 2 months to put out his album, or a year, depending on how you count. And it became pretty apparent that he was just stalling for time until Drake put out his album. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a carryover from 2018 onward, when there has been some sort of friction between the two on record, sort of, or like just from what we've heard rumors wise, and from all the gossip sites and yada yada. I personally, I've expressed this previously, but I just find it extremely dull and tiresome, and I'm not interested in the subliminals. I find it kind of hilarious that they both take it like so personally, because these guys are made for each other. But
it totally tracks.
I don't actually think they are upset. I think this is WWE. I think this is like fucking planned, especially with some of these recent choices, like Drake leaking a certain song yesterday. Is so dumb and so harmful to his own career. I can't imagine him doing this out of anger.
He's the most calculated.
I would agree with you.
He's the most calculated.
I'm upset. Makes me think he just makes bad fucking choices in these decisions. Like, I think that he walks into it, dude. He doesn't know.
Dude, I thought he was supposed to be a genius.
I think there's somebody on his team that either feeds him bad info and like just like kind of something. He's surrounded with sycophants who just don't know when to be like, I don't know, maybe sleep on this one. Maybe don't do that thing that you were planning on doing because it seems like a really bad idea. Like, maybe don't put out a diss song saying that you're upset and you have a lot of cold blood, when it seems like maybe this one song is setting up something really bad down the line. Like, maybe he's just baiting you, and saying you're upset is like not as threatening. That's, I don't know. It just.
And I don't want to go 50-50 with no ho. Terrible lyric in that context. What was going on in his life? Oh my God, it was awful.
I think the story of this album is a combination of hyper self-awareness and no self-awareness. Like, he's hyper self-aware of wanting to put himself out there and make himself viral and be a meme and be the topic of conversation and steal the spotlight from Kanye. And he also is completely unself-aware of how much of a complete dickhead he looks like Like, because he still thinks he's relatable, and he still has these like lady songs and these relatable everyman songs, and the fucking girls like girls song, which I think is supposed to be cute and supposed to be like, you know, like jokey and funny and loose, and it's just kind of gross and sexual predatory, and also sounds like shit, by the way. Some of the stuff on here sounds way worse than anything on Donda in terms of just being finished. Like, some of the songs are just like lazy as shit. Like, that's the thing is like Caleb said, I'm not interested in the why of any of this shit. I think that maybe it started off as like a work, but now they kind of legitimately dislike each other because they're both very sensitive. I don't think it takes anything more than a slight breeze to set Kanye off. And I think Drake just likes to set up shit for attention, but then actually believes his own bullshit in these things, and then actually works himself up into enough of a lather that he basically, in like pro wrestling terms, turns a work into a shoot. Like, it's set up for publicity, and then he gets so mad about what's set up for publicity that he believes it.
Well, he's you know, for all the times that we've met, you know, Drake just such a calculated artist and whatnot, but it seems as if in this instance with the Kanye thing, it's like, because Drake is so untouchable, since the Pusha T thing, I feel like things that wouldn't get to him, because basically Drake took a lot of shit for a long time from whatever, the industry, people, yada
Drake's
yada.
the type of, you know, blank.
Right. But then once the Meek thing happened, it kind of was going away. And then the Pusha T stuff happened. Like, that Pusha T, I mean, the thing that always irritated me about that, you know, thing was there was absolutely zero reason for Drake to release a Duppy freestyle song, regardless of quality, regardless of whatever. There was no reason for him to do that. You walked right into the door on that one. It wasn't even like, oh, you don't even write your songs. Like, who cares, dude? Like, that was a weak shot by Pusha T. And also, if it even was a Drake shot. Now, Pusha T says he had beef with Drake for a long time, whatever. But if that was even a shot at Drake, because he was just, you know, the Quentin, like, dude, Pusha T is referencing Quentin Miller. That was 3 years before before Infrared came out. Who cares? Everybody moved on. Like, there was no reason for you to care about that anymore. Like, you just had to release and of course, on the Duppy freestyle thing, we had the Kanye diss too, and I stretch my hands out and all that stuff. Like, basically trying to call Pusha T a hypocrite, but then of course it blew up in his face. And then I think Drake has been kind of, ever since then, I think it kind of fucked up his mojo. Like, I mean, in terms of how he
Drake was humiliated on so many levels there. Once the Lift Yourself stuff came out, like, Kanye came across like a dickhead in it, but people will talk about Lift Yourself for a very long time, and no one's going to talk about anything about Scorpion except for the stuff Pusha did to Drake. Right. That's it. No one's going to talk about anything that happened on Scorpion. What's your favorite song?
No, I mean, Scorpion.
People are talking about Nice for What? Yeah, Nice for What's a great song.
I mean, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is still the case now because these things change every year. I imagine In My Feelings broke some sort of Billboard record, but that's really...
Well, yeah, and In My Feelings saved his ass. Because seriously, like, he was low. He was laid low, and then In My Feelings came out, no one cared anymore. And then he was right back on top, and he just kept going. But inside, deep down somewhere, that stung, and he keeps talking about it. He keeps bringing this beef up on record. Nobody cares. It's over. You won in the sense that you have a career still.
It also ruined Scorpion. The beef ruined Scorpion.
I cut it off at the pass.
Went back and because the singles up until that point were all good songs, and he went and there were only two of them, but he went and he definitely changed parts about the album. He threw in more of those like boring, you know, type beat rap songs in there.
Oh, March 14, that was
right, he had the stuff about his son at the end, right?
Which is whack, by the way.
It sucks.
That song sucks.
You can hear what some of the album was actually going to be like, where it was like you get the usual hybrid of the R&B and the rap stuff, and you can hear some of the rap songs sound like they were actually previously recorded, and some of the shit sounds like he's taking subs at people that are like, not that Drake wouldn't do that anyway on an album, but just it sounded too obvious.
Well, I guess my question is there a nice... Okay, I guess we should talk about... Just get to the point. This was originally supposed to be just a Donda podcast. And we originally planned to do this as a supplemental to the Drain Gang podcast. But Kanye kept... Originally, we thought not being able to finish the album. I think, little column A, little column B here. He couldn't finish the album. He was torturing Mike Dean / he was stalling until Drake put out his shit. I think it was both. Mm-hmm. And he also probably booked all these, like, how far in advance did you have to book the stadiums? If you put out the album, was it going to be supporting the album? You know what I mean? Like, you didn't just book a stadium a week in it. Although you don't know with the COVID shit, like, but.
I think someone said also when he was living in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta after the first one, it was like 6 figures a day or something to live there.
Well, no one ever said he could manage his money. Like, that's
absolutely obscene money to be in that state. Unreal.
Once again, 1%.
Well, that convinced me the album was going to get done. It had to get done eventually.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about Donda when we talk about Donda, but originally it was supposed to be a Donda podcast, but Kanye fucking dithered so long that Drake finally released his shit, and it was Certified Lover Boy, which he announced the title of a year ago. He had his first single a year ago. It's not on here because no one cared about it. And he decided to drum up publicity and try and steal it from Kanye with this album cover, which I'm assuming anybody who's listened to this has seen, but Wyatt will, I'm sure, throw on the screen for everybody to look at. And So what were your feelings on this album cover?
Well, quick question I don't know the album in front of me. Was God's Plan on Scorpion? Because this is going to relate to
Yes.
Okay, so never mind. Because the first single for this album, I thought was pretty good. Like, it was at least interesting. It was too long, but it was at least interesting.
Was it Laugh Now Cry Later?
Yeah, the one with Dirk on it. I thought it was at least interesting. It had a good melody, but I don't know. It just once again, I feel like Drake kind of also sandbagged himself by not dropping the album shortly after. But regardless,
he hurt his leg, man. He hurt his leg, and then he just kept straining along. Which, for what it's worth,
tore his ACL again.
Tore his ACL, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he's a real Derrick Rose, it just right downhill, and I was terrified when he kept finding excuses to push this album back further and further. I knew this was going to be a trash heap. There's no way it wasn't going to be, because he kept finding excuses. There were no singles that came out from this album itself. And what is Drake known for?
I forgot it was coming out, honestly.
Yeah.
So the album cover got leaked or dropped or whatever. So
the singles are a moment.
So the album cover, I guess, is in the style of some famous artist or some shit. So it's not like completely out of nowhere, but it was clearly just like desperate, like, please go viral, please talk about me type shit, like make fun of it. Like it's just desperate. And that's what I get out of like all the attempts to just be relevant on this. And like, there are some good songs, but everything about like the title, which was a year ago, people made fun of it. He doesn't care. It's like any publicity is good publicity. The cover, people made fun of it. He doesn't care. Like, he just wants the publicity off of it. The music is just not a concern for him. And I feel like it comes across. And you have like 25, 6, however many fucking songs it feels like there are on here. It doesn't 21. Get good until the first song I liked on here was Somebody Else's Interlude. It was the first song I actually liked.
Yeah, Yeba's Heartbreak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the beat on the first track, but then when I listen to it a second time, I really can't stand how much Drake is whining on it. The Jay-Z song is okay. I mean, clearly a better Jay-Z verse than he gave Kanye.
Yeah, I thought the Jay-Z song was pretty good.
But it's just like, listen to Jay-Z's verse. All it is just paranoid whining. Like, Drake makes him, he raps like Drake. It's like back when Jay first came out of retirement, he rapped like the artist whose song he was on. Like, he rapped about like rare art, fancy pants shit on the Lupe song. He rapped like free associative shit on the Lil Wayne song, and now he's rapping like a paranoid rich person on a Drake song. So he's back to doing that shit. So
this is not going to be a great episode for Jay-Z. This is going to be a tough one.
I think that, and this is like the nicest stuff I'm going to say about Jay-Z in this episode.
Yeah. I think my other point was, and I've said this kind of ad nauseum in the Discord and kind of my general opinion of the record, but my real opinion of the record is I'm not surprised. Like, it's a 2021 Drake album. Like, to me, I think it's as mid and down the middle as it gets personally, and that's disappointing in a sense, but also I'm not surprised in that. I'll take a few the songs that I like. I'll kind of move on. I'll cringe at some shit. I'll shrug and forget about some shit. And it's like, why are my biggest kind of angle with Drake in the last few years is low stakes. Drake's projects are best when they're low stakes. You go back to More Life is when I think that started, because Views was so high stakes. And right after that, everything is a moment when Drake drops, right? but More Life was just kind of happened. He just threw it out there in his radio show. Then you had the demo tapes last year, and then you had which featured some leak songs already. And then you had the EP from this year, which just kind of dropped without warning for them. I think it probably was announced like the day before or something. So and those, coincidentally, those are all pretty good projects, and I don't understand why those projects are better than your last two albums. Like, I just don't.
Great. Better than Views too.
Oh yeah, no. I would probably agree with that too. Yeah. I think I have more patience for Views than you two, but I still agree with that take.
Views has some terrible writing. That was one moment where I really started to notice how bad his pen game had gotten. When you really peel back some of those bars, they're really bad.
It's got like some secretly awesome production. That like
40 carried that.
Like, people said that it was dull when it dropped. I actually think it has a cool sonic palette, but there's some brutal. The long lost Drake episode that will never drop that we recorded years ago, which was a really good episode.
Yeah,
has my conflicting. It has my conflicting breakdown of views, but there are some really interesting parts about it.
If we ever do a replacement Drake episode, I'd be a little kinder to Views just because of the production. I agree with Trav. The writing is trash. I think, again, Drake's writing peaked at Nothing Was the Same, and then it just gets big.
He had something to prove.
Yeah. It was really
More Life has moments on it that I like, but his rap writing game has been pretty much ass since Nothing Was the Same. With like, you can count all of the good moments, and they're all on Care Package pretty much. Like, Care Package consolidates every good rap verse he's had, I would say, since Nothing Was the Same and before. Well, not everyone, but like a lot of the good ones from before that weren't on a retail album and shit.
His Time and then Place songs mostly.
By the way,
one of those on here is terrible. That's
and I know he broke the streak,
dude.
I was gonna say, usually any time and place or whatever song is a winner, and that one was just not it. And it was very.
I mean, that's like shaded everybody, whatever type.
It's like it's such a nondescript. But the last song felt like the Time and Place song. That one had the actually like interesting beat, and like it sounded a lot better over it. I don't understand what.
That's one of the better beats on there, and it's fine. It's whiny, but it's like not like angry whiny. It's like melancholy whiny, and I prefer melancholy whiny Drake to angry.
Right, because he just sounds comfortable. Drake. Yeah, he just sounds comfortable versus when he's angry, it sounds so forced and kind of laughable.
By far, the best verses on here are by Rick Ross and Lil Wayne.
Oh yeah,
by far. Like Lil Wayne, just like what is like Lil Wayne is that's the third like career best Lil Wayne feature in like 3 months behind the Tyler album and the Gun tape. Lil Wayne, since those new dedications dropped a couple years ago, on features has usually been batting a very high percentage. His own albums, while have been more good than not, obviously there have been some misses there, but at least they've been like cohesive artistic statements for better and for worse. Like I mean, like it was like a shitty-ish Khaled mixtape that had a better B-side, but it was like better than like some of the other dedications that he dropped in between like two.
Yeah. I don't think
Ceiling I wasn't super mad at, even though it had its mid moments. There's stuff I'd keep on there. And Funeral, again, like I go back and forth on Funeral. Funeral's interesting.
It starts hot.
It's too long, but it is interesting.
I love Mahogany.
I maintain that he's doing a triple Extentation thing on there, like in the production and stuff. I feel like that.
Yeah, he definitely was. He definitely was really inspired by X because he put him on Carter 5 after X died.
But all that more interesting than a lot of the shit on the Drake album. But yeah, Wayne and Ross. That's my favorite track on here. I think.
Thank you, Bank. Great. Bank did a great job on that beat.
Bank killed that shit.
Yep.
And that's like a Just Blaze beat. Honestly, it sounds a lot like a sequel to Lord Knows more than it sounds like a sequel to YOLO to me.
It sounds like a 2012, 2013 song. It's a very like, but that sort of song is such a comfort zone song for all three artists, really.
Oh, yeah. And Drake's why he just doesn't register. I don't remember him because the other two are so fucking good on it.
Right. But the thing with if Drake is, why aren't you putting more things on your album that suit your comfort zone? Which, I mean, we heard even on the EP from this year, right?
Lemon Pepper.
Right, Lemon Pepper, you had that, which it sounded exactly like a beat straight from the era in between Nothing Was the Same. And if you're reading this, like one of those like 0 to 100, the catch-up type beats with more soul, with like the little washed out like sample in the background. You had that sort of deal. You had the one with Lil Baby, which is like your single, and then you had the What's Next track, which is like, the meme like pop hit, but it had a cool beat, and it was like, it was solid. Just like, why play to your strengths? Like, you obviously know which songs people are gonna like. What are you doing?
Those require more effort for him to actually fill out his verses, whereas the low effort R&B stuff, he can just recycle material, and he's clearly comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
He has a lot of, okay, so I think the most desperate thing on here is the Way Too Sexy or whatever. That's just so obvious.
Yeah.
It could have been fun. When I listen to that, I'm like, this is fun if Dipset does it 15 years ago. And Future's part's actually funny. Everything else, Drake is just so, he's just doing his usual angry at women shit on it, angry paranoid shit. So that's not fun. Like, he's not like, it's not funny. So he kills the vibe of what could have been, and it's the beat's trying too hard. It's not.
Yeah, it's trying. It's too heavy. It's too heavy. It's just like a big dollop of like orchestral nonsense, and it really, at its core, Future is fucking hilarious.
Oh yeah, so funny. And we've known that Future can step into camp. We always talk about the King's Dead that Patrick doesn't like, but Future can do that sort of shit and like be fine. He
wants to be a caricature of himself. Drake is a caricature of himself, but doesn't know it yet, and he hasn't steered into camp the way that Future's able to. Like, he knows that he's not that high all the time.
If Drake realized that he thinks that like a sprained ankle boy I ain't nothing to play with is not like a Hall of Fame hard bar, like he'd be a lot more fun.
I have a very soft spot for that song, despite most of the verses not being good, because it was at every single sporting event I covered. When I was a high school kid getting my start as a sports journalist, that freaking that type of song was at every single warm up music sporting event when I was in 10th grade or whatever. And this is way after.
Given what a torn ACL did to Drake, dissing like leg injuries are no joke. So he was onto that. Like, I don't know when the ACL hit him, but he definitely would be the expert on leg injuries. So damn, I'm going really hard with the outdated Drake ACL jokes in this episode. Yeah. Like, this is scathing like 12 years ago.
Well, I made a Derrick Rose joke earlier, so I mean.
Speaking of 12 years
Rose of rap, who is the Chris Bosh of rap?
Chris Bosh of rap. That's a good one. Chris Bosh's career story is actually kind of sad. I don't know who has a parallel with Chris Bosh, but
I thought Game for a second, but I'm like, I don't know if that really pans out.
I don't think Chris Bosh had ever had any beef with anyone. So
yeah,
I think he's a pretty well liked player who just had troubled injury.
Game is more like Latrell Sprewell, or if you switch sports, like Gary Sheffield or something. Just like, although he's not as successful as Gary Sheffield.
I was going to say, get Hall of Famer Gary Sheffield here.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I like Game a lot, but he's not Gary Sheffield. So Wyatt's listening to this having no clue what I'm talking about. They're not Marbles players, but
when I was really young, I used to model my batting stance after Gary Sheffield. Absolute legend. But
one of my favorites to play as in Home Run Derby on World Series baseball. So you actually talked about a sports thing. I talked about playing video games. This is the difference between us. I play video games of sports instead.
Well, there's going to be video game journalism too, so there's plenty of that. Esports journalism.
As long as you're ethical about it. So
yeah.
I'm just looking at this track listing, man. I got nothing to say.
Yeah, that's why we keep diverging, because there's really nothing to say about this shit. I like Knife Talk is cool.
Knife Talk's fun.
Knife Talk
is cool until Drake comes on it. Then it's just like, I just want him to shut the fuck up.
He's like a rock. Really, he's like a millstone around his neck. Let 21. Like, if you're gonna give Yeva a whole entire song, which by the way is such a More Life ripoff, like he did that like 3 times on that album, and it felt cohesive because it was like a theme. But on this album, it's just in the middle of the fucking album. There's like this gorgeous interlude. All right.
Yeah.
No friends in the industry now. It's like, what the fuck? I don't want to hear this.
Oh yeah, No friends in the industry really was like annoying as shit. It took 3 tries to get through that.
No friends in
the industry. Let me look at your credits list. How many friends in the industry you have? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
No Friends in the Industry samples my favorite 3 6 Mafia song, and it still wasn't a good song. And that just, that hurts my soul, actually. Like, I'm actually personally hurt.
It comes out of like a factory. It just everything sounds the fucking same. Like that beat sounded so overdone. Like I've heard it a million times, and he's saying the same shit. I don't care. I'm just going down the track listing. This Thames song, Fountains.
That's so.
I actually like
real
that
nice.
Song. I actually
like
that song's nice.
It's a More Life song. It's a fucking More Life song.
You're right.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Like what the fuck? The Kid Cudi song is pretty good because of Kid Cudi.
Parts on that. But again, it's like, the best stuff on here is Drake. Like, it's either him doing More Life shit where he's kind of biting Frank Ocean, or he's biting Cudi, or he's like a non-entity on the fuck. But that's like, at least the YOLO sequel is kind of him trying to sound a little bit like he did back rap-wise in the Take Care. Again, there's nothing new here. Like when we get to Donda, it's like, yes, there's stuff that's like echoing like, Pablo era, echoing way back like through his career, which Kanye's always done. But there's stuff that's new. There's progression in there, like a new sound that's what's exciting about it. Drake is just like, he was derivative even when he was good. And now it's just he's echoing back. There's absolutely no fucking inspiration here, dude. Like, and there hasn't been for a while. Like,
and it's a weird.
It's so stale.
It's like you'll hear inspiration and you'll hear interesting things in like song construction sometimes, or the way like the TSU song.
That shit sucked. I hated that song. Man. I guess the beat change was the only interesting thing in it.
The way it comes in with it's basically sound like he's doing the DJ Screw intro thing with the shout outs and all that stuff. I like that song. And I like the hook. Maybe I'm biased because I heard the hook 8,000 times on all these TikToks like for months because it was a leak. But I like the hook. I think it's a good, pretty good.
I got a Drake in the studio, and I'm not just saying.
No, I didn't say the verses, but I didn't say the verses. I like the hook. It's a good hook.
There were parts of this album early that made me laugh a lot. Like I was laughing a lot at the first like 4 or 5 songs because like Poppy's Home's fucking hilarious. Like I'm sorry, that shit's funny.
That's just funny.
It's so bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
That outro, and then Nicki, it's like. It's just the worst mixing I've ever heard in my life. I couldn't even tell she was on the song.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Like, oh, wait, I realized at the very end, that's Nicki. I guess I can see why she wasn't billed on it, because nobody could tell. They'd be mad. It's like, wait a minute. If you, like, search up Nicki Minaj, Drake, and you get that, it's like, where was Nicki? The fuck?
The Barbs are like, what the fuck? We were promised.
Girls like
we were trying to buy this shit and get it to number 1, but why?
Girls Like Girls is horrible. Like the Bible is horrible. All this, the first 5 songs are just terrible. The first song has a nice beat, but then it's just like annoying. Then the second through 5th songs are terrible. The sequencing is real whack. Fucking like I don't know, man. Like
I can't let Girls Want Girls Go. I got shit on that song for a minute. I can't let it go. I can't say, that one's bad. No, that song is going to be a single. It's got a shit ton of streams, and it's going to be everywhere for the next week or 2. So I got to shit on it. That's a terrible fucking song, and it's not just bad. I watched a little bit of Fantano's reaction to it, and I'll tell you, I agree with him on one thing. The reason this song is so awful is not the lesbian line. That's why it's catastrophically bad. But really, the foundation is that song sounds like a fucking demo. It's so lazy. Like, why? It's the most washed out, boring, tight beat crap. And Baby is just like rapping like his life depends on it in the middle of this awful song.
Yeah.
And then
it's just been a theme on Kanye and Drake songs and projects. Is someone on Twitter posted a Lil Baby collecting the check in between in between Kanye and Drake's like shitty beat or whatever, and it's Baby with the cash money phone up to his ear, like it's the meme where the guy's holding all the money up to his ear. So, yeah.
You're a lesbian, girl, me too, or whatever. Terrible. It's embarrassing. Yeah.
I mean,
low point.
Rip off of a Cameron line where he's like, "You like you're only into girls. Oh, me too. What a coinky dink," or something. Which is funny when Cameron says coinky dink, which is better than.
Well, I heard it and I thought of the Jay-Z song off the Blueprint where he was trying. I thought he was like sort of not aping that, but it had a similar type of like clumsy ass feel, except that song actually has an amazing beat, so I forget.
Oh yeah, is that Blaze?
Blaze or
there's 2 versions. I don't know the remix. I can't remember.
Either Blaze or Kanye. I think it is just Blaze.
Either
I don't know.
This just sounds like
it's great.
It's an amazing beat, and
I think the second one's Kanye. I think the part 2 is Kanye.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and that song's pretty tight. It's it's a little embarrassing. There's some horrible stereotypes. But, hey, fuck. I mean, it's way more interesting than anything here. Yeah.
It's like you can excuse the really awful second verse with the stereotypes in that song because
like bootlegging my shit. Like, oh, what a horrible line.
He has the line about like Native Americans or something. Oh, it's terrible.
Is that better?
Again, Jay's having a rough episode, but
is that better or worse than Tribe called Check-A-Ho?
Oh, Check-A-Ho's worse. Check-A-Ho's worse. My eyes bugged out when I heard that one for the first time. I was like, no.
It's actually made worse because of the line before it. Once you put them together, you're like, Jesus Christ.
And then it's like he repeats the Check-A-Ho
line, he does.
just in case you didn't get it. It's like, why would you double down on that? Why would you just like emphasize that? I would try
I'm gonna be the last Indian or whatever. That's just God. Oh God. Just end me with that.
That's line on Donda, and there are a few on Donda that are just like pretty eye roll. But
yeah.
We'll get that. I mean, is there anything else to say about this Drake album? Like, seriously.
Oh, my two favorite lines are fake. The ones they keep spreading on social media that they're fake.
The
one thing I hate is my son. And then February 19th, the day of the glow up. Oh man, that shit. Someone got me in the comment box. I was like, no, because that's the Millie's birthday thing. She turned 18 on February 19th, and then February 19th, the day of the glow up. I'm like, no, that can't be real, and it was fake.
I saw the Twitter
one that somebody posted in the Discord about like it was like Flintstone, like I have a bird for something, a Flintstone like bird voice. It's a living or something where it's like Flintstones lyrics. I'm trying to find it, but.
The one thing I hate is my son.
The one thing I hate is my son. I saw that on Twitter and I was like, you've got to be kidding.
Here it is. Sundial watches for my boys. That's the gift I'm giving. My typewriter is a bird. It's a living.
This is way better. So he needs to just outsource his lines from the write a shitty rap lyric thread.
Yeah, exactly. He needs to definitely go to the RYM, write a garbage rap bar thread. And
yeah. It'd save him a lot of trouble because honestly, that shit's way funnier than most of them.
Writing the shit now, apparently. So
you're just gonna sound like Big Sean, but I mean,
well, yeah,
Big Sean's been out rapping Drake for a while now. Like, I'm not like hating on Big Sean's output in the past year. I can't believe I'm saying that. And there hasn't been.
We're not gonna let you slide with the fact that you like Detroit now or whatever that album was called.
I didn't say I
haven't heard it, so I'm staying out of this.
6 of 10 is. 6 of 10. I haven't listened to it all the way through since. I like a lot of his feature verses. I've said he's improved.
Right. Yeah, fair. Yeah, fair. I still think he's really boring, but it's.
I'm not saying I don't actively.
He's more boring than he used to be in that sense because he's trying to be Drake now.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think he was trying to be Drake more before, and now he's trying to be. He's trying to be his own artist now, and it's actually. It's not worked out very well, I don't think.
I don't know. If you look at like the shit he's done, like pretty much anything he's done with Hit Boy lately has been really good. I think Hit Boy brings a really good performance out of him.
You're saying you want to
like Nas. Let's compare Big Sean to Nas.
Well, I was gonna say
he's the new Nas.
You want to anger the Griselda fans? Was he better than Benny with Hit Boy, or are you gonna? I mean, I wouldn't agree.
He out-rapped Benny on that one song that Wayne killed both of them on.
That's true.
There we go. Okay, so that will probably get a lot of negative feedback.
Yeah, we're gonna get a lot of fans. They're gonna ignore all the early 2020 episodes where we praised Griselda just because now we're kind of
I mean, I actually,
other side.
I was really big on Hitler. I was a big fan of the new Hitler. So I'm telling everybody, got to catch the new Hitler drop. So
I like that people get offended because now he's big, as if this isn't like the fucking 6th one. But now everyone's like, "Hey, do you notice he's doing?"
We're on 8.
It's the 8.
We're on 8, but 8 now. Fuck. They didn't notice it 7 times.
The 8th one. It's funny because
you can invoke Hitler 7 times, but you go Hitler 8 times. That's too many Hitlers. You Hitler one too many. You over Hitler.
It's like saying Beetlejuice a bunch of times. But
Hitler, yeah. You got the new Candyman out.
Now we're gonna get a lot of like crossover from like Chris Cantwell fans and shit. Or was that like just gonna like the algorithm's gonna bring up a bunch of fucking like alt-writers.
Oh my god. Well, no. We're gonna nix it right now. It's a great day today because Richard Spencer's life is crumbling. So we're gonna nix. The best thing I read all day was that Richard Spencer's life has been in the toilet for a while.
Good for her.
Keep going.
We love that. Yeah,
don't stop now.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's all good.
It's all good.
You have accelerationism, so are we. Keep going downhill.
Accelerate yourself into the trash.
Wait, that has to be the pull quote for the episode.
We're into accelerationism. Just accelerate yourself right into the garbage. That's good. And
like
one last thing about this Drake album.
On to the next.
One last thing.
Okay.
Fucking fans. Fucking fans is the fucking I can't. That is one of the best examples of not having a song on your album and just leaving it. That has to go. Why is this on this album? Why is it second to last? What the fuck is it doing here? It's like right next to all this good shit. You Only Live Twice, and then the Kid Cudi track, and then fucking fans. This is a literal black hole in this fucking album. It sounds like Peak, but with really awful toxic content instead of just whatever Peak was about. I don't even remember, but it's a nothing
about,
beat.
like some amorphous like girl, I think was that.
Yeah, a stripper that he's simping for.
Right. Yeah, but at least it had like a real beat. That song is I've listened to it once on the first listen to the album. Has already forgot everything about it and will not be returning. No chance.
I'm not letting anyone forget. I've never been to coma before, but that's my guess. As what
the biggest thing about this album, and I was worried this was going to be the case. Worry might have been a strong word, but I was thinking this might have been the case where it was just like, dog, why wasn't the demo tapes like your album? Like, just make them sound a little bit better, and just that's your album. The demo tapes has more personality tenfold than this album, and there's like a
future feature. Oh my god!
There's actually like progression and different variation in the album, you know, because it's demo tapes. There's a bunch of different versions of Drake on that. You get the drill songs, you get the pop songs, you get the soul sample songs, you get the little downbeat electronic music type songs. Like, you get the Cardi track, obviously. Like, what are you doing? Like, why wasn't that your album? Like, it's even sequenced well. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Did you put more thought and calculation into how you were going to release some of your songs that people leaked versus your actual album? Which is just...
And there's a hit on there because Tootsie Slide, you know, it exists. It was a hit.
It was a huge... It wasn't, right. You have your single, so I just don't understand why, like, the Future Young Thug song could have been a big song from that project. Like, why, Playboi Carti had 8,000 songs leaked, whether it was by him or somebody else, and he made Whole Lotta Red. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And previously he made Die Lit. You had some of your songs leaked, not all of them on here, but like a chunk of them, right? Why did you drop anyway? Who the fuck cares? You're Drake. Like, most of the general public that listens to you doesn't know any of those songs, like, before they were released anyway.
Right.
So, just because, like, Desires got leaked and maybe some of Pain got leaked and, whatever. Like, one of the drill songs you released, like, who cares? Just make that your album. Because I actually enjoy that project and I've listened to it, like, maybe not in full, but I'll definitely I listen to Deep Pockets. Like, that's it sounds kind of washed out and weird, but I like the song a lot. Like, I don't know. I find that album so much more interesting and enjoyable to listen to than something like this. Low stakes,
D4L itself has more personality than the entirety.
The whole, yeah.
Of Certified Lesbian Boy. And, it's this awful album. And I'm so disappointed because this was so hyped. I had to hear about this for a year. And it was just the same crap. And you know what? It sold fucking great. So we're going to get the same shit all over again because the same yes men are going to keep telling him this is okay. And we're just going to get another washed out, boring album with some interesting Lucy's before it. And the life will go on until he retires.
Right. And that's what you're
it's a shame. It's a shame.
You might get, you nailed it. Because, honestly, Scorpion had more personality. Like Scorpion was a big swing.
Scorpion was personality though. It had like I mean,
it's toxic.
No. Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing.
Ultimately, the thing about both these albums and Drake in general, and increasingly throughout his career, is, and Joanna Newsom nailed this on the board, is that he is very tiresome. He's unappealing, and his music has increasingly reflected that. And right, like it's better when it's low stakes, because when he puts himself on a big stage, it's just who could fucking care? Like he always has to he generates all this bullshit drama around everything because the music itself is fundamentally uninteresting. The way he produces it is uninteresting. He has to create all these extraneous fucking circumstances. And I mean, that's a funny thing to say because I'm about to praise Kanye West. He was creating nothing but extraneous circumstances for his music, like living in a stadium for 2 weeks to fucking create it. But in terms of just like emotional context, because there is like, ultimately it's all the same bullshit. It's been forever the same two things. He's paranoid about women. He's paranoid about himself. And third one, citation fucking needed. I don't know. I just get the same vibes off him over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to be at least
he's not interesting as a person.
Production used to be interesting. At least and like on those low stakes releases, he still takes chances. And at least when he swagged Dracula, some new rap scene or some new artist or something, at least there's the rap fan Drake that we've talked about. So that guy's still kind of endearing. Like without at least on Knife Talk here, because he's like, aping old styles, like letting 21 and Project Pat do something fun on it at least. And Drake sounds like a fucking goofball. But at least that goofball is like, I don't think he really wants to be taken seriously. I certainly hope not.
No.
But I don't think he does.
I don't think he does. Yeah, I don't think he does. But that's the thing. Like Drake's enthusiasm for rap music usually comes on at multiple different points on one of his records, and on this album, it comes along on like the fewest of any Drake album.
Yeah,
because even on Scorpion, you had the Premier song where he was obviously really excited to work with Premier, or like the Nice for What with the New Orleans stuff, and he really cared about that. There were songs on there, even something like Summer Games, which I know people cite as like a really underrated song. Like it's pretty good. I'm not as huge into some people, but even that is like, it's something. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. This is just not it.
Where's the So Far Gone Drake? Like I remember Houston, Atlanta, Vegas, and those influences coming through in his work, and like, oh, I relate to this because I like this kind of music. Oh, this is cool. I mean, like, Comeback Season Drake is corny, but, like, Jesus Christ, like, at least that guy was a human being. And, like, I'm sorry, Drake, you're not Michael Jackson. He says Michael Jackson, like, fucking twice. Dude, no, you're not.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we're going to just, like, let that slide or
no.
Nah.
No.
Fuck that. No, you're not Michael Jackson, and you're not Michael Jackson literally. Awful line.
Every time he looks in the mirror, though. Every time he looks in the mirror.
He's going platinum. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Awful.
Ugh.
So no, I'm very disappointed because Drake brings good singles. He didn't give me any this time, and I'm pissed because I have to wait 2 years, and now it's like, oh, maybe we'll get a Nice for What next time. But instead, I got to hear about how successful he is for the next 2 years. Fuck no, he didn't do anything. He's gonna fucking payola his way to something. to Girls Want Girls being a number one, and it's gross. Fuck you, Drake. Anyway, Donda.
Wow. All right.
To another artist that I also have to say kind of fuck you.
Oh, and fuck you too, Kanye, but I also love you.
Like, but at least he gave us good music.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. The good music, while I know we all like this album, I would say has overall been debatable. I wouldn't blame anyone for not liking it.
Oh, no, that's the thing. Is like, I'm going to feel like I need to defend the album because I feel like it is not particularly likable. But I was thinking about this, and pretty much every Kanye album, with the exception of Twisted Fantasy and, oddly enough, Kids See Ghosts, I've gone up and down on over time, and my estimation of has risen over time. Like, some I outright didn't like at first, like 808. I didn't like Graduation at first either.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed at the time.
I mean, I wasn't. I love it. In status. By the way, ask Diction how he feels about this album. He really likes to talk about it. He really likes to listen to it. One of his favorite albums of the year. Just really loves the direction this album has taken. Definitely. Yeah.
We never agree, so I must hate this album then.
Oh no, Diction despises this album.
Yeah, Travis coming on here to shit on the album.
I've rarely seen him made so angry by an album. And I knew it was going to be the case, so I kept being like, I wonder what Diction's going to rate this, because I wondered if he was going to hate it more than 808s, and that's the example I was going to use too. I think that was the one I had the coldest reaction to. Even Yay, which is the one that's the exception to the rule, because that's the one my estimation of went down on, because I was kind of like on the fence about it. And now I would say that it's the one I'd lose from his discography, even over Jesus is King. Whereas this one, I think I started in a more positive place than most, and I think it's going to be one of those history redeemed it cases, albeit it's definitely going to be like Pablo, in that people are they're already making their own hits. They were from the fucking first listening party.
Yeah.
But I feel like the material here, and also that's the other key difference, is that we're going from the past couple of releases of just a dearth of material to a breadth of it, to just so much. And going through it all the way through, I was thinking about it, and every Kanye album pretty much has a skip except for Twisted Fantasy, right? Like, think about, like, is there one song you can skip on every one except for Kitsy Goes?
Graduation's got one. 808s has a couple. Yay has a couple, which is really, that's the problem. I love Yay, but if Yay has any skips and there's 7 songs on it,
like, the thing is, when you have when you have 7 tracks, you can't have any skips, period.
No.
And I'll grant like, every other song has merits, even if I'm not the biggest fan of them, except for All Mine. All Mine is fucking terrible, and it's right where you can't have a terrible song more than anything.
Well, Pablo has a couple, but yeah, I don't think Late Registration has any skips. That might be a hot take. I don't think there are.
I don't like Gold Digger, but then I admit that that's like a real minority opinion. But I've never liked that song.
I think that album's consistent as fuck.
I think it's consistent, and I admit that's like a minority opinion. But I felt like that was kind of an annoying song. That was kind of. But then again, like, I know it's also one of his most popular, so that's, I don't know if that counts. I think most people would say Late Registration has no skips, but
Dropout has a couple skips. That might be a hot take.
People go back and forth on Workout Plan and Breathe In, Breathe Out were the two, which I love both, but I understand people skipping those. And obviously the skits. I'm not really counting the skits.
Yeah, right.
By the way, like, I'm talking songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So no, I don't think that. Yeah, I think he's got a couple that don't have skits, but yeah,
So
I pretty much agree with that.
No skits. Well, Donda. I guess Donda's half and half. Like, Donda's a skip, but it also has a vocal performance on it. And Donda the chant, obviously, which most people are gonna skip.
Yeah. I don't, but it's like whatever.
I skipped it the first time. No thanks.
I don't get the visceral reaction to that. Like, I think it's better in the middle of the album, like it was on Second Listening Party. But
it's good ASMR, you know.
I mean,
look, whatever you want to do with that song is fine. But
I don't know. As far as vocal performances go, I prefer it to Jay-Z on the second track.
I mean, that's also comparing. I mean, gosh, we're going lows and lows.
I mean, I think that the ASMR stayed on beat more than Jay-Z did.
That's true. The ASMR did not have the level of cringe. If we're gonna get to the second track,
let's just get
no. But here's the thing.
Let's just rip the Band-Aid off.
Here's the thing. Right? I want to love that song.
It's so close. It's so close.
It's right there, and the hook is good. The beat is kind of interesting. What the fuck is Jay-Z?
In my cell. That's my
selfie. Mate, God, image. That's a selfie.
Like, dog.
And Jesus. That's Moses.
And Jesus. I think that shit's hilarious.
It's the thing is,
this is not. No.
Who in that chain thought that was good? They all knew it was terrible, right? Like, they either. I'm trying to get in the heads of everybody involved there. Like, who thought that was? Did anyone think it was good? Is it supposed to be terrible? Like, I know that what Kanye is going for with the song is this is something everybody shouts back at him in concert. So that's certainly something you can do with the Jay-Z verse. Like, it's very easy to shout back. You could say a fucking prayer between all of his bars.
You can say a prayer in between the bars.
All those fucking guitars though. I got such Big Brother vibes, and that's the point.
It's a really big sounding song.
Yeah,
it's right there.
And the hook is so wonderful. Like, oh my God, I'm very sympathetic to this song, but
I don't
know about it as an opener. I don't know. I have mixed.
My big problem
I don't know.
Is that it does not work as an opener, especially having heard it as a closer on the first party. And
right, me too.
Party,
yeah.
It's like, and the second party, it's like in the same spot, but then they have all the new songs afterwards. I still think that it's a closer in an ideal world on like a B-side version that comes out a week after with the real album, with the main album having No Child Left Behind or Life of the Party as the close. No Child Left Behind is the closer. Life of the Party is the bonus track. Like, let's go real 90s with it and like have it be a hidden bonus
It's
track.
St. Pablo. It's St. Pablo, and you guys give it the update. Right.
Yeah, there you get your past version and you get Life of the Party. You get like literally a top 5 anybody rap verse on any Kanye album, and then Kanye kind of ruining it with a great rap verse about bullshit after Andre just gave you that. The thing you've been waiting for since 30 hours, finally. And then
it's a little like No More Parties in LA in that way, but in reverse. I mean, like, because I think Andre kills Kendrick's verse. I think as far as feature verses go,
there's no question.
And then Kanye comes through with a long verse, and it's good. I think it's a decent verse, but it doesn't work in this context.
The stuff about Drake is at odds. That's the thing, is he's been changing all of the changes change the tone of the album. Like sometimes, like when you started with South Carolina and then you had Never Abandon Your Family, it's about him and his loss. When you get rid of those, it's about him and trying to win back Kim. When you add Life of the Party, it's about him and his narcissism and Drake. Like he keeps changing the tone of the album. Well, then again, we don't know where Life of the to believe what the new story is, Life of the Party was going to come on at the very end, and that supports your theory that it's all a fucking pro wrestling work. And then to believe that this is all ultimately about him and Drake fucking working a feud at the end, that is kind of pathetic.
It is. It shits on a really great concept.
And your wife and your divorce, and then ended up being with you fighting with this other asshole. That's a little like.
So you got to make your own version. You got to tell your own narrative because this is a Rorschach test of an album.
It is very much so. And that's the thing is, like, I like everything else about Kanye's verse aside from that. I love the idea of his verse. It's another one. That's another story about this that I don't. Again, I've really avoided anything aside from on RYM about like reviews of it because I'm not really interested in the media reaction to this because it's so goddamn just exhausting to listen to any Kanye media cycle at this point.
It's disingenuous. Any discussion you're getting about the music, don't bother. I don't want to get onto my soapbox, but I'm glad I got out of music journalism in moments like this because I can't talk about this. It's disingenuous the way that this album is being approached outside of the fandom. And honestly, it's not for them. I don't think I'm going to get any good insight from them.
No, because they're kind of approaching it from this TMZ sort of lens where they're going to focus on something like, what's the one? The name's escaping me. There are 24 songs, whatever. But the one where it's like, is it "Keep My Soul Alive"? The one where it's really personal about him and Kim going together, like Taco Bell and KFC.
No.
Keep My Soul Alive,
Pure Souls or something.
Yeah, "Keep My Soul Alive" is the Griselda song.
Okay, Pure Souls. Is that Pure Souls? I think that's Pure Souls.
Is the Roddy song.
It's the Roddy song.
Then it's Lord, I Need You. Then
Lord, I Need You.
Lord, I Need You. Then it's that one.
And like they'll just approach that from he's talking about Kim. Let's analyze those bars. But it's more like he's rapping more personally and actually able to articulate his thoughts for the first time since Pablo. That's what interests me. Him as a writer and a rapper, and the way he's able to do that over that sort of beat without any assistance, and the way he brings in the vocals at the very end. I can see that from a musical perspective, but I feel like most journalism at this point is just like, the tabloid fodder aspect. Or, let's read into what is he talking about his political turn? Is he talking about this and that? So that's not fucking interesting. What's interesting to me is the way this synthesizes past eras, but also has some room for something like Off the Grid too, which is totally new for him, but yet not really because he's still rapping the same punchline style in a lot of the same sort of way. But it's kind of paying off the promise of like when you heard "Go to the Moon" that wasn't just like some weird one-off thing he did. That he actually sees like a kindred artistic spirit in Cardi. And it works.
I'm going to halt the love fest on because I think we're, especially in referencing the whole music journalism thing, while I don't disagree that it can be very tabloidy, I do think that there are aspects of Kanye and his persona and how this album was presented and rolled out that are disingenuous. So I don't want to just give him a total pass.
When I said that if it's ultimately about Drake at the end, fuck him. Because if you ultimately took both your divorce and your mother's memory to do something to sell it, fuck that.
The album has nothing to do with Donda. It shouldn't have been called Donda. I don't care what anybody says. I know it has this personal journey, like narrative throughout it, and that's cool. And obviously, it means something in
I
a long.
think you're right, actually, and that's why it's like I guess it's good that he got rid of "Never Abandon Your Family" in South Carolina, because those were the two that had something to do with her in some way, or at least used her as a lens to think about himself, because they're still ultimately about him. Both,
And it's like Kanye still deserves scorn for only including Jail Part 2 just because you can laugh and try to laugh in the face of people who are, quote, huge air quotes, trying to cancel someone like DaBaby or fucking Marilyn Manson who's a sicko.
Nah, fuck Jail Part 2. I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, I never listened to it.
That's my point. So you set yourself up for that by putting those dog shit, people on your fucking album. Like,
and
you
bring
can't.
Your listening party too, because he knew what he was like. That was 100%.
Of course, he knew what he was doing. Like, he's trying to be an antagonist.
He said he knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, fuck West Side Gun too, because he apparently just did some shit where he was like with Marilyn. Like, I don't like. Yeah, I guess
He's my least favorite Griselda member anyway. Fuck him.
I mean, yeah, it's just like like I said, and this is what I'm saying is, since I think Pablo was the we talk about how like the Pablo album rollout, while it ultimately somehow was a success, I think it broke Kanye. Like, I think it really, because now he just thinks that shit is like a thing you can do and like, make it through. And that's why, and you artificially drum up the excitement by putting yourself in the stadium and recording in a room that looks like a prison cell for 6 figures a day. And this album's going to be a masterpiece. And this is how I'm going to drum up the hype for it. Not that he needs hype because he's fucking Kanye, but there's just stuff about now it's so tiring to me, and that's why I don't have as much
interest. Right. Like, the most surprising thing Kanye could do is just open a band camp and put out an album for $10 that's like 45 minutes long and has like 8 5 to 3 to 5 minute songs.
Because
it's true though, but like that's how it is. Yeah,
that's how it is.
On the other hand, he did something like the Abstract Mind State thing. Like, he also did that. He produced that whole fucking album. So he's still going to do shit like that. Like, again,
no one listens
way too hard for Kanye here. Like, fuck him for Jail Part 2. Like, but again, like I've said this dude fucking went out there talking about A$AP Bari to people who don't even know who that guy is, being like, he's decent. Give him a chance. Like, what are you do? Like, this
Bill Cosby innocent, let's not forget.
Bill Cosby innocent. Yeah. Bill Cosby free, by the way. I'm surprised Bill Cosby's not on Jail Part 3 featuring Bill Cosby and Weinstein. Like,
did he forget the name, just like Steve Harvey? Like, yeah, I mean,
but that is my overall point: is that Kanye himself is an exhausting figure who deserves scorn in many aspects. So I am not. Once again, I have read a couple. I haven't read many reviews of this album, but writers that I deem to be good and who I follow have written, I think, fair shakes about the album. I think both of the reviews I mentioned in the Discord were pretty mid on it overall, but that I understood their viewpoints when reading it, and I understand why, feeling like even with the music, whereas previous Kanye was tiresome, but the music could salvage it, the Kanye in music is one of the same, and it has been really since, you could say, Twisted Fantasy or Yeezus, but I mean especially these days.
Pablo
Onward was like there is no mirage anymore. He's got to keep up the image of him being genius. Like, so can't let what he produces speak for himself. So there's a lot in there.
I'll just step back.
It is exhausting. The discourse is exhausting. So I understand any music writer being like, you know what? I don't like this album very much. I'm not going to I don't encourage fucking hit pieces, but like, if you, like I said, the reviews that I've read from some of the better writers in the industry, people like Paul Thompson, for example, like, I understand why they're like, man, I'll take some songs and but overall it just, they're kind of empty from it. And I can understand that. Even though I like this album, I want to preface it by saying I like the album definitely more than the last two. It's just like, it is just like enough.
I understand it. It's just more that, I mean, it's hard because he is, in terms of, art from the artist. Let's table that discussion for a second. But in terms of that, regardless, he is the most by design, the most outsized. I want to put myself in my art. It's so, you can't really separate the art from the artist, because he's going to put himself out there in the way he rolls out his art and in the content of the art itself. I mean, how can you look at something like Famous and be like, wow, I really like what he did with that sample without like, what are the first words of that song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's going to color your opinion of Kanye colors your opinion of something like Famous, of your opinion of something like My Twisted Fantasy. Like, you know, what he went through very publicly is what led him to create that album. And you as a listener have some opinion on that before you listen to the album, presumably. So, and that's the same thing with this. So I get it, but I feel like there are some writers. I don't know. I haven't read any of it. I haven't even read the Paul Thompson piece. I'm sure it's excellent, but I feel
like a zero out of 10 for the Independent. You know,
I just feel like there are some people that ignore every musical aspect to focus entirely on the personal aspects, and there is a balance there. And I feel like sometimes, like, and I understand when it was really hard for people in the super Jesus-y period now, like the Jesus is King period, which is why I'm surprised that I was able to kind of divorce that, because I've had like personal problems with like that sort of whole side of the world, like, you know, evangelism and whatnot, given the high school I went to and stuff, even though it wasn't like that kind of evangelical, it was more Catholic, but still, like, I was able to like kind of divorce that and just kind of look at the musical aspects of it. But I can understand how people couldn't, because prosperity gospel is super gross. And then you have Kanye out there with fucking Joel Osteen. Mm-hmm. Like, I kind of had to check myself on that, being like, what? Like, this dude's doing 1.5 hour things with Joel fucking Osteen. Like, I think that's way more gross than anything that's happened now. But
yeah. I think this album undeniably has more effort and is more at least true to himself and the, you know, just being the religion and being within yourself and that then Jesus is King. Yeah.
Because I want to can I have a second to talk about that? Because I wrote a lot about this in my Jesus King review.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because this is really important to me, because I do identify as Christian. I'm going to talk about this for a second. Part of the thing I really did not like about Jesus is King as an album, and why I'm very cold on it, and I think it's easily his worst, is those fucking lyrics were so empty and performative. And they said very little about his Christian experience, how it relates to his loss of his mother, how it relates to him as a celebrity, as an artist. It was empty. And I contrast that with the music, which I found very cold, a little bit overdone, just like kind of like in an 808s kind of space, but doing something a little bit different. I thought it was a really shittily produced album, and that paired with these lyrics that were just from the neck up. I didn't hear any of Kanye's usual vulnerability that makes me love his work. And so the fact that I felt cold towards that, especially after listening to those Sunday service performances, like the fucking Coachella performance, that's so soulful and just open, and it's just incredibly funky, strange, ambient performance where you just kind of let the negative space work. I listen to the album, it sounds like a fucking headache. And so for me, you know, Jesus is King is the opposite of what I look for from Kanye in terms of his vulnerable content. And so I get very frustrated when I see Donda, which I think is much more genuine and creative, have a fucking worse Metascore because he put Marilyn Manson on his album. I'm sorry. But as someone who's been listening to this man since 2006, I gotta say, I've watched the Emperor's No Clothes argument with Kanye for a fucking decade and a half. And these critics bending over backward for Kanye. Meanwhile, there are people like my wife and friends of mine saying, I don't think these albums are really that great. Why are they letting Kanye get away with this? Why are they letting him get a fucking perfect score, you know, for Pablo, which has all kinds of flaws? But now things have changed. Now we're in a narrative position where Kanye is actually releasing some of his best work. But the discussion isn't about that. And I think that is disingenuous. And so from my perspective as a listener, that's where my cynicism comes from. Because I just saw him make an album that was very empty with Jesus is King. And it got a slightly better Metascore than Donda. And I just don't buy it. And so I get it from both perspectives, because you cannot separate Kanye from who he is as a person and his art. You can't. That has been out of the window since at least 2010, if not longer. But I don't see that as a flaw. I see that as a feature. But then again, I'm a fan. So again, I don't write reviews for Donda. I'm on this podcast to discuss how I feel about it, but I don't want to get into that. I don't want to wade into that pool. So that's my feeling about it. And I didn't want to just jock this whole thing, but that's my perspective on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would, well, I guess you guys have both had your seconds. I'm going to take my 2 minutes. So basically, I hate being put in the position to defend Jesus as king. It's more I want to defend his intention as opposed to the execution of it. First of all, I feel like your criticisms are very valid, but I feel like hands-on kind of addresses hands-on to a lesser extent use this gospel, although he doesn't really speak that much on use this gospel, I think are kind of as close as he gets to exploring it. I think the problem with Jesus as king is he's taking the elements from Yandi and like forcing them into this very public transition to reborn Christianity. And the pieces don't fit together, and he's never that articulate of a writer, and he was just very publicly trying to do this thing with things he'd already written lyrics for. So, and also what worked about the public Sunday services was they were expansive. And Jesus is King, I think he was trying to write like like I say in my review, like a graduation sort of concise thing. So he mixed up the pop songs. So Water at Coachella is like 6 minutes. That was the new song. It was gorgeous. It was like a neo soul thing. It didn't have any of those words to it. And then on Jesus is King, it's 3 minutes, and the lyrics suck.
Right. The hook's still great.
Really vapid.
And
like, Jesus, have the salt. Jesus, have no fault. Jesus, you're the best. Like, they're really dumb, vapid lyrics. But then, like, when he's just doing the chorus with the choir at Coachella, it's amazing. And it's the same melody. It's the same song. But when he forces himself to put it into, like, a pop construct, he chokes. So he was taking old songs and putting new words to them, and he couldn't do that with Jesus is King. So I think I think it was just like a fault in translation. I think that there's stuff I really admire about Jesus is King. I still think it's a good album. I like it better than Yay because I think Yay just fails on too many levels. I think Yay was like a public meltdown that was never finished. I think Yay was started and never finished. And the one song that was finished should have been on another album. So
Jesus King, you know what the lyrics are like? It's when you first become a Christian and you have nothing interesting to say about being Christian, but you're so passionate about being a Christian, and you're just like, God, I love you, God, I love you, God. You have nothing to say. I'm sorry, you don't know about the walk of being a Christian, what that's like. Nothing to say.
He uses the right terminology, but there's no depth or gravity behind it.
Yep.
There's no muscle behind it, essentially. And then you have, which is weird because you have something like Jesus Walks from like 15 years ago, which like is so assertive and competent in his Christianity. But I guess that's reborn. He's like being like a child again. And I guess that makes sense. Now he's a child, like you have Donda intro talking about his mom. So I do think this has more to do with his mother than Optimal gives it credit for, at least in intention.
It does by the end. I think it finds its way.
Again, I think that he changed trajectory for this album a bunch. But I think that in terms of, that's the first thing I wanted to talk about was how he translates the whole Jesus like choral Sunday service choir aspect here, because those are some of my favorite songs. 24, No Child Left Behind. I think that's like I think he really more fully realizes the direction he was trying to take on Jesus is King, but he was trying to take old Yandi songs and make them into something new. Whereas here he was actually taking that direction. That's what I mean about like new inspiration. Like I think 24 there's a reason he let off with that. A lot of reasons on the first listening party. And a lot of people were mad it was 6 minutes. I don't know. Like that started as the intro. It's kind of in the middle here. I don't know. How do you feel about like those type of songs in 24 specifically?
24, I loved at the first listening party. Now, I'm going to say right now, I didn't see the second or third one. And I'm glad I didn't, because the jump from first listening party to the final product, I was impressed.
Oh, yeah.
But
monumental.
Right. And I've heard there are a lot of people who think that the second listening party was the best version of the album. So I'm glad I didn't go. I was at a concert. I was seeing somebody, but
it must be nice.
Yeah, you know, it was outdoors. It was great. So like 24, a lot of people complain, bad mixing. They cleaned up certain aspects. I didn't mind the 6 minutes because it gave me Sunday service vibes. I'm like, well, I've been here before. I'm comfortable with this. This is what praise and worship music is. You get yourself worked up into a lather. And it sounds great. I really loved it as an intro. I miss it. But at the same time, the 3-minute version sounds great. I'm a little mixed on its placement, other than I love that run. just in general. I don't necessarily say they flow great together, but Junior, Believe What I Say, and 24, I love those 3 songs. I don't know if they work together, but I think they all are wonderful, and they really pick the album up in terms of energy.
Well, Junior was the one that from the first listening party just stuck with me immediately. And
it's catchy.
I don't know if it's my favorite song on. I mean, like now there are multiple candidates for it, but Junior is just fucking perfect. Like I've had lines from it still get stuck in my head. Junior, what I know, my wrist. Like it's so good, man. Like it's so energetic. It's so just like the way they play off each other, and then the part 2. Like we'll talk about the part 2 later, but the way Ty comes in on part 2 is just fucking ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I love this song. I think that people are like, "Oh, he's gonna fix Junior." Like, what's there to fix?
Yeah, it's bite size. It's great. It's a great single. Yeah. I hope they make a video for it. It's fun. And Cardi sounds like a Pokemon. You know, he's doing his shit. Speaking in tongues in his own way. You know, it's
music. How this happen?
That's such a great song. It's really complete. It sounds like one of the few moments in the album that you could call like fun, which is not a detriment to the album necessarily, but it's really a fun, energetic, enthusiastic, genuinely enthusiastic moment. Also, Ty Dolla $ign murders it on the second part when he comes in. So yeah, I'm definitely. I mean, I like both versions of the song a lot. I'm definitely I think I like part 2 more just because of the extended.
Yeah.
The extended Cardi verse and all that stuff. So,
like, why not? Right? Like, I'm listening to him back to back. It's like, what? It doesn't lose anything on part 2. It's just better. Yeah. Like,
right. Exactly.
I mean, part 2 feels like it has a little less Kanye, but that's not a detriment in terms of like Kanye. Again, I don't think really finished. Like, I feel like there was a lot more that he intended to write for that, and he just kind of gave up. So it's not. But like I said when I initially wrote my review for the first listening party, you don't really need to write that many lyrics for a Playboi Carti song.
No.
You can get away with writing like 4 bars.
Right, that's the thing.
So
right, you don't even have to do that. And I mean, there's Kanye, nothing more that both artists love than talking about fashion brands. So when you get a little Junior Watanabe, which by the way, elite, some elite clothing. So that's good on Kanye.
To continue our streak of mentioning this song on the podcast, I believe I first heard about him on Gold Watch by Lupe Fiasco.
We do mention that a lot. Lupe,
such a good designer, Junior Watanabe, goddamn you. Yeah,
that's good.
I gotta confront you guys. I want to do a Lupe episode. We need to do one. I want to get in on that.
That was already promised to Zach from a movie episode.
That needs to happen.
It does. That's going to be like 7 hours long, and it could either have the nicest fan reaction ever or even more mean than the mock fans. And also, there's also a chance that could be even more than the potential Droog episode of Lupe actually responding under an assumed account type thing. So I feel like that's the only other risk.
Patrick's going to be like, I think Miro is the greatest verse of all time. And Lupe's like, you said what about it?
Oh, no. We're going to get into like an argument about Food and Liquor 2, and he's going to defend all of like really shitty songs on Food and Liquor 2. Like, actually, you didn't get the meaning behind the Pooh Bear song. Why I went with How Dare You and Heart Donor.
The song means bitch bad. You got to understand what he's talking about.
Bitch bad, woman good.
Woman good.
But lady better. You misunderstood. Oh, damn it.
When we do our future Kendrick episode years from now, he'll show up for that too. I think Logic kind of did this better.
Oh, that was a deep cut. That was also that was like years ahead trolling by Lupe too. That's how futuristic he was. He trolled us about Logic 5 years ago.
5 years ago. He was ready for it.
Oh man. But yeah, as far as the part 2s go, since we just mentioned it, I think the only one that's unnecessary is Jesus Lord Part 2, because that should have just been the song, because that's how
right. Why would you listen to the original? Why?
Yeah, I agree.
Just put the locks on it, and that's it. Like, also shout out to Jay Electronica. You have one good verse every 10 years. I'm glad you finally found it. I don't know where you left it. You didn't find it on your fucking album, but I'm glad you finally found it.
There is a. I mean, it is such a typical Jay Electronica.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting
It's
on it.
hilarious.
It's
I
like
love it.
Jay Alex
Same
like
verse as his "We Made It" verse. It's the same verse as him on Control. It's the same verse, Amico and Texaco with the I don't know words, Hebrew words, Jay Electronica, Electricity Ministry, Hebrew.
He's like he's reading scripture, I'm just like, oh,
I gotta
cool.
mention the Rothschild real quick. Like,
Oh, I know that was a little cringe, but okay.
he does it on every fucking song.
Yeah, it's really, he knows where his bread is buttered.
That's like the least anti-Semitic Jay Electronica verse I've heard in a little while, which is congratulations. It's still a good verse. Like this, we sound like we're hating on it, but this is like what
because it's so easy to hate on Jay Electronica, and justifiably so, for the record.
I never got your opinions on written testimony. I don't know. I didn't.
Unwritten testimony is ass. Sorry, I'm just gonna say it. It's not. The J parts the JD parts are excellent.
Hey, there we go. Jay didn't have such a bad episode after all. I found a way to fit it in here.
I could not believe that we actually came up with a way to compliment Jay-Z, and it's about his parts on an album that wasn't even his.
Well, he did own that album. Wow, that is. I thought Patrick was mid on it. I didn't know he thought it was ass. That's good. That's a good.
No, I tried listening to it again, and I actually think that there's one good Jay Electronica verse on there. He really annoys me on that album. The thing is, if you listen to enough recent Killer Priest, you'll see somebody do that style so well, and Jay does not he just does not care on that album, man. Just so obvious that it was like, well, my contract's up. I'm going to owe these people a lot of money if I don't finish this album. Yeah. And then Jay-Z literally had to step in and be like,
Jay-Z was like,
I do this?
Would you like 5 career high verses? Okay, I'll give them to you.
The rating for Act 2 really tanked. I haven't looked in a long time. It's like a 3.3 something now. God damn. I remember people were really hyped about it.
Act 2 is fine. It's just like retroactive because everything he's done since is what it is. But I still love We Made It, even though it's probably anti-Semitic. But
probably
there's probably at least one line about the Rothschilds or 7 Jew bankers or some crap. But,
yeah. For sure.
That makes sense though. Why Jay-Z ended up on the album.
Once again, after we did the whole thing about the West Side Gun thing, we're gonna get all the wrong listeners on this episode.
No, but obviously we're not praising that those decisions that were made.
No,
I can dunk on the story of OJ's last verse a few times.
That beat is so perfect.
It's incredible. I love 444, but yeah.
That's a great song with a truly horrible credit bar in the middle.
I quote that all the time.
Man. I don't know why he does that. That's the most baffling fucking thing. He literally doesn't even just lampshade. He puts 7 spotlights on it. He stops the album and be like, credit.
Yeah, he's like, I promise I'll be a good landlord. You're like, all right, Jay-Z.
Yeah, sometimes I'll be up with my friends in the club and I'll just be like, it's more important than going to a strip club? Credit. And they're like, what?
You want to know how Jewish people own all the property?
And when I do it to my wife, she just rolls her eyes because I've done it so many times. But I do that sometimes because it's fucking hilarious. It's just, how things get stuck in your head and you just want to say it, or you're sitting in a meeting and you just start laughing. That credit line sometimes. So for me, I love Story of OJ, but it is incredibly anti-Semitic and it is relevant to this. I just think it's hilarious. He ended up on the same album with Chilek.
Yeah, that is it's one of the same. Yeah. I love Story of OJ too because I feel like on the polar opposite, the very few times Jay-Z has tried to be a meme and it works is the "I'm not black, I'm OJ" thing, which is brilliant, which is a great turn of. You're like, okay.
It's certainly better than cake. It's shit.
Okay.
That's okay. Good too. That's good too.
Okay. It's literally like Homer Simpson. Okay.
Jay-Z on Pound Cake is better than Jay-Z on Jail, no question.
Yeah, Jay-Z on Jail is. I mean, again, the thing about that makes me mad is that I believe that he got it 4 hours before.
Yep. First take.
But then redo it. That's my thing. Like, who thought that this was still good? Like, are we sticking with it to be a meme, or are we like actually think this is good? Or like, what's the thought process up the chain here? That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, so I don't understand if we're trying to do like intentionally bad for a meme. Do we think this is good? Because Jay has done a lot of stuff that he thinks is deep that's not. Young forever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, do you really want to be, you want to be young forever, I don't know.
So he did the unknowable Rap Dawn thing long before Drake tried to do it. But you know what's great about Jay is whether he's empty and dead inside or not, we got 444. So I know he's capable of having that self-awareness and making a great album.
Oh, no.
And Drake never will.
But we also got Entrepreneur, so,
Right.
Oh,
Don't. That's a sore spot.
That's
another song we bring up on this podcast every once in a while, just to do it.
Man, I think that's more disappointing. Like, I don't even know who that's more disappointing coming from, Pharrell or Jay.
It's Pharrell, I think. I expect better.
Like, I still believe that Pharrell has some sense of how, like, real people live sometimes. I think Jay long since gave that up. Jay is like a real housewife of blank. Like, he's like Sonia Morgan or some shit. Like, I don't know what the fuck his problem. But Pharrell, I feel like, is like actually like not completely oblivious to reality. And then they put that song out in the middle of COVID. I don't fucking get it. So
yeah,
no, it's
Jail is still worse than Jay's worst. It's hard. I don't know. It's a bad verse. It's cartoonishly bad.
Yeah, it's bad. I kept Jail on my like out of the songs I saved, I kept it because I find the hook very invigorating.
Oh no!
Yes, I do
too. But like Kanye was doing stuff with Francis and the Lights from like years back on tour and stuff, and you can tell Mike Dean. Like I think that's Mike Dean doing the guitar on that. I know he gets a co-production credit, which is like he's always getting engineer credit. So he definitely had more to do with that. So the song itself is really good, really like cathartic, anthemic, that sort of thing. It's not an opener; it's a closer. So I can forgive the J verse if it's not like so forward. Like I'm trying to think of it from the perspective of a listener who just is like a casual Kanye listener. They don't know Yandi. They don't know all this shit. They just know him. Like they listen to every Kanye album when it comes out on streaming and stuff. And so they've heard the Donda intro and they hear Jail and then they hear this Jay-Z verse. And I'm like, doesn't that kill that Jay-Z verse and then God Breathed is kind of momentum killing out the gate. A little bit.
Is God Breathed like
that's God the Father, like Mari, Dustin, Hoffman,
but
those fire bars.
People talked about how this album's production invokes Yeezus, which for the most part it absolutely does fucking not. But there's a God Breathed that actually kind of have similarities to Yeezus. Yeah, that was my because especially with the how he's doing the lyrics, the kind of like the second verse on I Am a God, like it does feel like that. And even the Vori on that, I believe that's how it's pronounced. It kind of sounds like a feature that could have been on Yeezus, like doing a hooker or something.
Such as God on I Am a God.
Such as God.
Yeah.
Doing the whales at the end. That was actually God. God was wailing.
I really like God Breathed. We got some sequencing problems here though. Like from the start. I mean, what is God Breathed doing here? What is Jail doing here?
Right.
So then,
why are those songs in front of? Why are the two centerpiece songs in the album songs 4 and 5? What are we doing?
Right, and yeah, Off the Grid is okay. Yeah, Off the Grid needs to be in like the upper middle of the album, I think.
Yeah.
Hurricane can be a little earlier than that, but I think for sure this whole run. Okay, Praise God maybe could be where it is. Jonah, okay. I don't know. Okay has actually kind of grown off of me because I remember really loving it the first time, and now I love other things more, and it's kind of stayed the same. But it's probably okay where it is. Where I'm kind of interested is like I kind of feel like Junia is in a really weird spot too, where I think it's trying to like refresh the album, like pick up the energy or something. And but I don't know what this is doing. Like, what's Remote Control doing here between 24 and Moon? I don't know.
Makes no sense.
I don't know. Whatever. But you know what's funny though? Right after Donda, because as Pat said, Donda is a better opener. Donda with South Carolina attached to it, that's a fucking album opener. But then you get from there, Keep My Spirit Alive pretty much through the end is great.
It makes
great.
a lot more sense cohesively, yeah.
Yeah, that whole run is terrific. I wouldn't change anything, honestly. Maybe New Again could be earlier, but it's great. It flows so well. And this is where you start to get the thematic significance of Donda, from Donda through to the end. But then the rest of the album doesn't really connect as tightly with that, so you got to make your own version.
Right. No, Donda would have heard Off the Grid and been like, "No, shit's a banger. Keep that up. Keep that on the album."
Right.
So that's like the anecdote about her, right? Like she always gave Kanye like the best possible advice, right? Like
best ghostwriter, the best ghostwriter I ever had. Yeah. I love that line. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, the one I would say is what's the one about On My Shoulder? What's the On My Shoulder song? I can't remember the title right now. Again, that's the one where I feel like he didn't finish the verse. The other two verses are good on it. Cry on My Shoulder. That's the one that I feel people don't like. Okay, I like it. I just don't know where I'd put it. Kind of like God Breathed. God Breathed obviously is a big sequencing problem. I feel like God Breathed came from the same sessions as Wash Us in the Blood, which that would be like the God's Country era, where I feel like he was still in that Yandi mindset of like, I want to take like Christian themes and put them to this like dark industrial sort of mindset, or like this. And that's not really what he does here. Like, I think the most effective stuff here is like the gospel influence stuff, like gospel ambient. Like, people are making fun of the genre tags, but there really is like gospel ambient rap pop. Like, he really does blend like a bunch of shit on here, like 24, No Child Left Behind, Come to Me, or what is that? What's that? No, it's not called Come to
Life.
Come to Life.
Come to Life. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's super emotional. Just it feels like he's taking. People again made fun of his vocal lessons on the boards, and again, he'll never be a technically great vocalist. But I feel like he takes his limitations in his vocals and uses them to the best of his ability, I guess.
Really well on this album. I actually think vocally this is pretty good. As far as Kanye goes.
Very well on 24 and
Yeah, I agree. And there's a really good series of pop songs in here too. I think New Again is super catchy. I'm so glad they threw the Chris Brown verse in the trash. That's the last thing this album needed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, good call. I've heard it, and it doesn't thematically fit. It's not that good. Just throw it out. Fuck Chris Brown and what he thinks. He called Kanye a hoe, which he is. But you know, shut up, Chris.
That would be your opinion, Chris Brown.
Fuck you, Chris.
I feel like Chris Brown. When you live in glass houses, you should.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
You know. But yeah, Believe What I Say. I love. That was, I think, one of the first songs in here. I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy about this album, because I hadn't heard it before. I don't know if it went listening part. It was not in the first one.
That was in like the end of the second one where they started throwing the stuff in at the end, I believe.
The Lauren sample's wonderful, and I'm in kind of a Lauren mood lately because of her terrific feature on King Disease 2. And that's just such a great pop song. I think there's a lot of room for that to fit in as a single. Although I don't think Kanye's really. I think he's almost on to the next album at this point. He's already recording. Was he in Berlin the other day or something? Yeah.
What's the one that's going to chart highly? I know Off the Grid and
Hurricane.
No, but there's one of them that's going to be. I thought it was. God, it might be Jail, just because where it is in the album. I don't know what there was.
Jail
one
Part
song
2, I think.
That was gonna. Oh, that was no.
Jail
No
Part 2
way.
charts highly.
No way. I don't think it was
that's
that.
like money to horrible people. But
Hurricane
was released as a single, but then it wasn't on Spotify because I looked for it and he obviously messed with it, because the version on the album, at least the one that was last time I looked on Spotify, is a little sped up, which is annoying because he can never leave that song alone. He's been messing with that song since like right past Pablo. And he finally got it right at the second listening party. He got it pretty much perfect. And then the album version, he speeds up the verses a little bit. I don't know why. He just can't leave the shit alone.
There's no way that song's 4 minutes flat. Like, I remember that song being way longer.
Well, there's the 5.5 minute version on YouTube, but that has like an outro, which he kind of puts in the background of like the first chorus of. That's how long he's been. Like, if you have a version of this song, like there are like 15 different versions of this song. I think there might be more versions of this song than any other Kanye song, honestly, because it's been called 80 Degrees. It's been called Hurricane. I think it might even have been called Slave Name at one point. But that's, I think, what's so impressive about this album is it synthesizes so many different eras of his, like material-wise, content-wise. Like, he's still, like, embracing, like, the whole Christian aspect, the reborn aspect. He's talking about his divorce. He's talking about Drake. He's talking about, like, a bunch of stuff. And probably the most lucid way he has in quite a while. Like, he actually took time on this. He
locked himself in a stadium. Yeah.
Yeah.
He made it public. And we've been saying this for years. If he sits the fuck down and works on an album and only the album, he's going to come with something good. He hasn't been doing that. And he rushed Jesus is King. That thing came out real quick. Ye is a total rush job.
Right.
Very public rush job.
Ye was that weird self-imposed thing where he would have been just as good if he just went with 4 albums and made Kids See Ghosts his album. You know, his / Cuddy's.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been totally fine. No one would have. There was no need for, like, he could have just put out, like, the songs he wanted. Like, he could put out Yikes and maybe Violent Crimes as singles. The other ones weren't really finished thoughts.
No. And Ghost Town could have easily been on
That's what I'm saying. Ghost Town should have been on Kids See Ghosts. I thought about Killing You is, like, personally significant to me because I thought about that song and some times and stuff, but it's like he couldn't clear that sample. The version that's actually on, what you can hear on streaming is terrible because he couldn't clear the actual.
Yeah, you got to listen to the YouTube version. Yep.
Yeah. And No Excuses is not a song. Like, it's just kind of. And that's like I think that's about Drake too. Like, who cares? But it's just like a weird, like, sample minimalist thing. All Mine's terrible. Like, just
what's the one about Kim?
Wouldn't Leave.
Wouldn't Leave. I love
like
Wouldn't Leave.
On it. It's all right. But,
I love Wouldn't Leave. But yeah,
I mean, it's a nice song about his wife. Like, I'm not going to hate on that. And Violent Crimes is complicated. Like, I mean, I think differently about it already now because I just had a daughter.
Same.
Like, yeah. I also don't agree with how he talks about his daughter in that song, but I also, you know, it's a father talking about his daughter. I understand why he did it. And I think the instrumental is incredible, but I don't know if anybody needed to put that on an album.
Yeah.
You know, their other hand. So that's the way I feel about Ye. Is like, that was personal thoughts that, like, you know, as a bipolar person, I don't know if a bipolar person needed to put out that album. I think that he had a bipolar fit and felt like, oh yeah, I have 5 albums worth of material. He really had 4. He really had 3. Like, we had a Wyoming episode. He had 3 albums there, and he got drunk with Nas one night and thought he had 4.
Yeah.
So yeah,
which has about 2 or 3 keepers on it. Yeah.
For sure. Like, Ghost Town is incredible, and it's like they're like the Sunday service version of Ghost Town is beautiful too. If you've never heard that. But he never finished his verses on that either. Like, even if you listen, like, you know, he does like that, like, he never even finishes his verses on that. Like,
no,
it's just like, clearly that was just like something he made in like a fit of pique and like a bipolar fit. And
it's fucking great. Yeah,
it's great. Best possible version of what could have came out from that.
Right.
From that song. It was. I think Hurricane has a slight edge on Jail, and then which has a slight edge on Off the Grid in terms of the charting.
Which makes sense. There's a lot of hype for Off the Grid.
Just because the Vivio part is so long, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like 3 minutes long.
Okay. Yeah.
The thing with Off the Grid is that it was it was around. It leaked. Well, not the song, but like the snippets were coming out before Whole Lot of Red. So people thought it was going to be a Whole Lot of Red initially, because all they heard was like the small bit of the Cardi verse, I think, at that time. I just remember that's what I heard. So I wonder when that song was made exactly, but I remember it came out, or that snippet at least existed before Whole Lot of Red came out. So there had to be some sort of creative session there, where I'm imagining Cardi also gave him the junior verse. I had to imagine, because I can't imagine getting Playboy Cardi in the studio multiple times. That sounds difficult. So
again, Pokemon, you only catch him once.
Right, exactly.
That's what he is. That's what he sounds like too. Yeah. looking at the sequencing here for a second again, one issue I got with the album, and this is every time I've listened to it, in the beginning drags. And it drags not because these songs are bad. Look how fucking long these songs are. Right at the beginning, everything is like fucking 5+ minutes. And then you hit right around Junia through to Jesus Lord, everything's like 2 minutes. So you get like all these long, chunky, dark songs in a row, and they're very good, but they're not spaced out properly. So it feels a lot longer than it actually is. And then it gets into a really great flow again after Jesus Lord, which is, I think, honestly, probably in my top, I wouldn't say it's a top 10, maybe it's top 20 Kanye song for me right now.
Yeah, Jesus Lord is interesting to me in a lot of ways. The way it calls back to so many Kanye eras. Like, first of all, the way he delivers his verse feels like a sequel to Cudi Montage.
Yes.
The way the beat feels like straight up late registration or even earlier Kanye. Just the etherealness of the soul sample, the way it's constructed, the way he brings in other, like First J Electronic, and then you have the locks on part 2, which is, again, as we said, it should just be the way it is. It's like, again, the curatorial Kanye bringing in, like, he got Quali or Quayle, he put him on songs with Jay-Z. He's going to get the locks and put them on songs with J Electronica. He's still the same producer, and he's still going to get them all together and give them an audience that they wouldn't have otherwise. And it just feels like, I made this defense when we had the year-end episode where I put Sunday Service on the year-end, not Jesus is King, but Sunday Service. And it's like, Kanye's always the same guy. Through all this bullshit, in terms of being a musician, he's the same guy. And this is the same sort of thing he would do on Dropout, on Late Registration, especially on the Good Friday sessions where he was, everybody would say most musically inspired for Beautiful, Dark, Twisted Fantasy. Like, I think that's why Jesus Lord is resonating with so many people, and especially the way his verse is too. Like, that just demonstrates that he can still do this as a rapper too, even whether or not he wrote it. Pretty sure he didn't write it.
Right. I don't think so either.
He delivers it, and that's what's important.
I'm gonna read some lyrics from this because this is the part you're talking about. So he's like, if I talk to Christ, I could bring my brother back. I can bring my mother back to life. If I die tonight, will I see her in the afterlife? But back to reality, where everything's a tragedy, and better have a strategy, or you could be a statistic. Little boy dies. He's just one of the mystic, and mama's steady crying because she's really the victim. And now she's getting high and she's getting addicted. And her older boy just stuck with the picture, painted vivid. That's a family portrait, and her daughter just absorbed it. 16 pregnant. Baby daddy said she could abort it. We could afford it, so she decides to move forward. Baby shower time. Father didn't show up, and she's just feeling nauseous, like she's going to throw up. And all of this is so not like what I've heard from Kanye in years, except for Cudi Montage.
Right, because it's like that whole thing on the other line is the homies.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that whole part. Yeah.
Crying on the concrete.
Very immediate, very getting in the head of his subjects. And he's talking about stuff that, like, if you think about, like, maybe the Ego Death remix, like, he talks about abortion there, but it's so preachy. It's like this sour, dead note at the end of the verse where it was like a fun verse, and then it's just like, oh, God damn it, Kanye, why are you preaching?
But not here. Yeah,
it hits you right in the goddamn gut because there's just something about the way he delivers it. It's integrated in perfectly. It doesn't feel like Christian literature. It feels authorial. It feels different.
There's consequences to not getting an abortion because you go and have your baby shower and your baby daddy doesn't show up. And you feel like fucking shit. And you got to go on with your life and this kid. It's not just like, oh, you did the right thing. No, you have to go on living. And that's the hardest part sometimes. And that's what's such an amazing part of that song. Now,
and that's what differentiates this from Jesus is King, where it's like, I just became a Christian. Everything is great. Jesus passed the food. It's like, this is nuanced morality. This is the life you live afterwards.
Yes. And that's, exactly. And that's why I was so empty listening to Jesus King. But I am sympathetic to it. It's different. Like, I get it. I just don't listen to it.
Right.
Right.
This feels like a more evolved sort of writing. This feels like he's more settled into his skin. And again, it's up for debate who wrote this. I don't think that matters. That's why, like, the whole ghostwriting, you don't write your own shit thing doesn't matter for me with somebody like Kanye, because it's like he's such a charismatic MC that it's more about the whole package, the way, the beat he chooses for it, the way he delivers it.
And not a great secret, but we all know it at this point. He didn't write a lot of shit on College Dropout or Late Registration either. I mean, he did, but he didn't write it all. And we know that he had really good influences surrounding him at that time, both personally and artistically. And now he has a very mixed bag of influences. And here we are. And this is a wonderful example of what happens when Kanye, the chameleon, the sponge, gets really great content around him. This is an amazing song, and it's stuff like this.
Sky High the Princess fucking bars on this. Like that's the thing. It's like you can go back to Pablo. You can find like look at Big Ghost Review. There's a whole ton of Sky High the Prince garbage bars on Pablo. There are none of them on Jesus Lord, and that's especially evident when you put him against not just JLX, but Jada and Styles and even Chic Luch. Like they're all in their element. They're all spitting like the verses of their lives. And that's the other thing about Kanye as a curator is he gets them on there. He has Cardi on there. He has Westside on there. He has a very short Conway verse that's super fucking good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Conway
very concise.
Conway will just give you exactly like what is necessary. He will never have this audience again. So he just gave the very basic essentials. And I think that was very effective. So.
And I think another great example of being concise, and since I'm on one right now, I'm going to really go into my other favorite song, that's Come to Life, which has a lot of lyrics, and they're not a lot of words, but not a lot of lyrics. These songs are very... Yeah, there's a lot of words, but he's saying them over and over again. And they're very simple, and they're very powerful. I don't want to die alone. I don't want to die alone. I get mad when she's gone and mad when she's home. I'm sad when she's gone. There's just these wonderful like contradictions that are very human. And what you get out of it is just this profound sense of loss and loneliness without really having to say much of anything at all. Just a lot of words that tumble out. And I think it's just an incredible song. But obviously people focus on the outro. But
would have been more strengthened by having Never Abandon Your Family in the middle.
Right. That's true.
At the beginning, because that's like you're painting the complete picture of the child who became the man, like No Child Left Behind. Like it's supposed to be about Donda's child who grew up to be this father, and did he abandon his family? Like that's the narrative. At least at one point, this was the narrative of the album. So like that's the thing.
And then maybe you lose a song like Remote Control. You make your own version.
That's a dumb song. Like that's just
right. So is the album too long? Yeah, maybe. But I think it's more that like if I really fixed this album, it would still be long as fuck. It's just different songs.
Yeah, there's really like that was my whole original point with the whole skips thing, is that every Kanye album has skips. This has no more skips than the rest. It just has more songs. And I feel like the intention of this album has changed so much over time and the way he rolled it out that when I think about what I would lose from it, is actually very little. So it's still very long. Like I made a version for my car and it took me like a half hour because I had to keep changing what I would skip, what I would lose from it.
Right.
To ultimately make it 80 minutes for the car.
I was surprised when I heard the album first. I was surprised. I was just listening. I'm like, I like all of this. I really do. I'm not struggling with this album, and it was long. I had to take a break in the middle, but
that is the thing, is that I've never really listened to it back to front more than twice. Right. It is that devastating. That's why I made the car version too, because I want something that's going to live in the car. I hope to have something under an hour, but I don't think his vision was under an hour.
No.
For the first time again since Pablo, he finally has such a breadth of material and a breadth of something to say that, like, Kids See Ghosts was 30 minutes. Yay was not
25. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what he had to say on Yay didn't even fill that out. And Jesus is King again was a compromise of material from several sessions that. It's weird because the Sunday services were so long, but there were so many choral parts. In terms of what he had to fill that out with words, there wasn't so much.
And
I feel like, again, his rapping on here is not going to get the credit it deserves. There's some terrible rapping on here. Don't get me wrong. There are some bad, like they said Adam could never be a black man because a black man would never share his rib. Like, that's both amazing and horrible. At the same time, it's charming and just dumb, like, at the same time.
No, you have to say it with the never share his
read.
That's like, I love your titties because I can focus on two things at once type of line.
I unequivocally hate that line, actually.
Oh, that line's fucking hilarious.
That's so stupid, dude. But that's the thing about Kanye is, like, I hate drunken hot girls except for the most part, but the one line I love on it is la 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 la.
That's how the fuck you sound. He starts laughing.
God, what a
guy.
That's the thing. The pun at the end of that off the grid is like a classic, like 2012 ass Kanye pun, like Cruel Summer ass Kanye. But so it kind of evokes a little bit of nostalgia.
Shitting on you, holy crap type bar.
The other thing about Jesus is King is that what passed for a joke on Jesus is King is, what if Eve made apple juice?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So childish. It's whack.
Jesus is King is really a Fisher Price ass album. Like it really is. You know, there's occasionally there's some good stuff on there like Follow God and whatnot, but you know, I agree with.
No one would call Jesus is King a funny album intentionally.
No.
It's too serious. It's performative. Like no.
Yeah. And not that this album isn't, but there are at least moments where it breaks through. The sunshine breaks through. Speaking of breaking through, I cannot believe that I have let all of you talk for all these minutes, and I have not spent 5 minutes on Off the Grid yet, because we have to talk about how that song's perfect. Like,
I think we've talked about Off the Grid quite a bit.
We have.
Let's just talk about that verse, though. Like,
come on,
great verse.
We have to talk about that song. The way it comes on is the hardest shit. Kanye does great on it, and a flow that I didn't really know if that would like work for him at first, but he pulled it out. I've unequivocally loved Kanye's parts on it now, and we got to talk about how Fabio kind of just bodied the. He didn't body the entire album because obviously it is a good album. I do like the album, but that's going to be a highlight for years to come on this album. People are going to reference that part. Like his verse is just unstoppable.
Well, that's the thing about Kanye is that he has a way of just getting like career verses out of people. Like you had Consequence on Gone. Like people aren't going to remember Consequence except for the fact of pulling out some liquor for the effect of the child's going. And then everybody's going to be able to do the rest of that verse. No one could tell you any other Consequence song.
It's party time. And it's party time. Did you see that shit?
And no one's going to remember anything other than the video. No, I didn't. By the way.
Oh my God, dude. He trolled the world last night. It was great. He convinced everyone that we were going to get Life of the Party studio, and then it turns out that he has a song called Party Time, and he just dropped a song called Party Time. It's trash, and I think it has a great diss in it. It's great.
Consequence.
What a little fucker!
God damn it, Consequence.
That was funny though. That was one of the highlights of this awful / great rollout period.
Well, you know, I'm surprised that he's the only one who's doing this. Where's Sci-Hi? Where's Sci-Hi to get his like little 5 seconds out of this too? You know.
Oh, and there was a purple devil emoji on the cover art, which was great.
Honestly, like we were shitting on him a second ago, even though I was actually defending him. Weirdly enough,
this is the kindest anyone's ever been to Big Sean on here. So that's
I know, right? So really, this is a record for
character turn, character development.
Big Sean on the podcast. But yeah, Off the Grid is. I mean, it's a perfect song. I mean, Cardi went nuts. I mean, we got Fabio. My favorite bit of his verse is when he's talking about how, you know, I know that my old friends pray that we settle our differences. You know, he goes, then he has another line before. It's a segue, and then he talks about something before. Then he talks about, oh, now I'm in a new building with amenities. I got a chimney now in my house or whatever. It's really. No, it's just great. It's bar on top of bar that it's just so charismatic and wonderful. And I like Fabio, but I never was a huge fan. I would say I leaned positive on him. I was never like a massive fan. I mean, I like the big singles that broke him out, you know, alongside Pop Smoke.
About him until this album, except for what he was on the Nas album, where he was fine. He was on that track with a bonus track with A$AP Ferg, which was surprisingly decent. And then,
he came up in the explosion of the Brooklyn Drill stuff in the wake of Pop Smoke, because he and Pop Smoke are actually were very close.
I'm wondering
they were. I
was wondering about the Pop Smoke connection, and I think that might be through Cudi or something. I don't know, because or Mike Dean, because Pop Smoke showed up originally on the Cudi album, then Cudi and Kanye show up on the Pop Smoke album. Because originally everybody's like, why is this Pop Smoke interlude? And we have to talk about the Pop Smoke interlude, by the way, because it kept showing up. It just kept showing up, and it's on the retail, and I couldn't tell you why. I don't know enough about Pop Smoke nor their relationship with him to comment on it. And
the song exists, you know? That's my thing. It's like you can go listen to it.
It's certainly there. It certainly sounds like an unfinished demo that's in the middle of everything that I will come to accept.
It's a train wreck. It shouldn't be on the album.
This song is on Pop Smoke's album. You go listen to it. Like, why is it here?
It's definitely a lower quality version of the vocals that are on Pop Smoke's album.
Right.
It already sucks there. And
I was saying it already is low quality.
Here, I don't understand. Like, I've heard reasons why, and I'm trying to I feel like there has to be like I like what Thoughty Zoe said on RYM, and I'm not calling her a thought. That's actually her name. That's her username. Is that there must be some personal significance of this to somebody. That's why I brought it up. That maybe to Cudi or Mike Dean or Kanye. That's why it's there.
Does him say we made it? Maybe something like that. Just that chant, just connected with him somehow thematically. I don't know. It's in a really weird place.
It doesn't really translate. It never has. Like it's jarring. It takes me out of the experience. I don't get it.
The placement is terrible. It just shouldn't be on.
It should be earlier or not at all. Like
it has no. It has
I'm gonna
no
go with
place.
not at all. Like
yeah,
it works for me. I've listened to 2 of the 3 listening parties. It didn't work in either. It doesn't work in the retail context. I'm hesitant to just like shit on it like without reservation because I feel like it probably has some personal significance. Like it can't be stream trolling because who really cares about Pop Smoke that much this far after his death? Like I can't imagine the market's that big.
Well, also it couldn't be stream trolling because it's Kanye as such a monolith of an artist. They're gonna listen to a Kanye album regardless if Pop Smoke is on it or not.
No, it's just for what?
It's just for shits.
It's an extra stream. Yeah, I don't know.
To say that he has Pop Smoke on his album, but it's not Pop Smoke. It's fucking bullshit. It's so I don't know. I wish that they collabed while he was living.
Both versions of Jail for different reasons. It's the most distracting thing, and it's right next to Jail. It's just in the listening party, and then otherwise, it's just. Wherever it is, it doesn't work.
It was so bad in the first listening party because it was like right in the middle, and everyone's
at the first listening party is right before Jail, and so then you get like Jail, which hypes you up, and then you get God in myself.
There's a two,
yeah.
It has because it comes after New Again, which is a pretty good song. I don't love the song, but I do like the hook. And there's like a 2-song lull for me, and then Pure Souls comes in is amazing. But like Television, like it just deadens that momentum, because I feel like after Jesus Lord, the album, New Again's good, but then the next 2 songs, and then it pick Pure Souls, it picks up again, and Come to Life, No Child Left Behind.
Yeah, I fuck with Laura I Need You. Laura I Need You to me sounds like a good version of what he was trying to do musically on Yay, like a really effective one.
I agree, actually. That's a good way to put it, because I feel like it's kind of what he was.
I don't dislike it.
Kind of what he was doing on Wouldn't Leave, kind of that sort of like clean soul sort of thing. Where and
it's disarming lyrically, I think.
I think it's naked, like emotionally naked in that sort of way that he was going for, and it's very different than everything else he raps on Hurricane.
Right.
Hurricane's kind of the same way too. I think Hurricane and this are sister songs, like one's at the beginning, one's at the end, and I think one's supposed to complement the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just like, even when I was listening, I'm like, is he really rapping about Kim like this? Is this really like, ooh, this is interesting. I wasn't expecting these bars because, again, I had come from the perspective of, oh, he's really pissed off. You never abandon your family. And then I'm sitting listening to this album the other day, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is a really tender song about his relationship. This is great.
It's interesting you took that perspective when you heard Never Abandon Your Family, because even the first time I heard Never Abandon Your Family, it's him.
You think that's about him?
Auto-tune, Daddy, why did you leave? Daddy, why did you leave? The very first time I heard it I thought it was him talking as himself about his father leaving. And my wife, actually, she hadn't heard it, but I told her about the listening party, and she read some story, and she's like, yeah, what if it's about him leaving his children?
I always thought he put blame on Kim for things falling apart, but it also makes sense that he could blame himself. He does that a lot. It's interesting. No, then don't.
Even if you look at something like "Father Stretch My Hands," like it's he's being an asshole, as he says in the song, as he says in "Runaway." But I feel like even when he's calling himself and saying he's he's saying he's an asshole, like he's bragging about it while being self-flagellating.
Bound to, sure. He's always done this.
That's the thing that differentiates him from Drake, is that Drake is one-dimensional, sort of, I'll be sorry when you want me to be sorry, let's move on, baby. Whereas Kanye is like, take me as I am, I'm a fucking emotional train wreck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not always an apology,
you don't get with Drake, both in his music and his content.
Right. And he's also 10 years older. I hope that Drake eventually gets it together, man. I hope that he gets to a point, but I don't think he will. It's just, I don't know. If he hasn't now, I don't know when he will.
It's true.
I just hope he makes fun singles again. That'd be nice.
It's just start. Like, I love Nice for What. I love that fucking song, and I miss it. Like, that's the big thing I miss from this material. And, you know, even on an album as sad as Donda, at least there's some moments that are very bright.
I mean, Junior's nice, like, fucking really optimistic. I feel like it's ultimately that's why he made the changes he did, and you can miss them. That's why you can make your own edit. But I think he was trying to be optimistic for it at the end. Like, I think it was a cynical calculation to compete with Drake to delay the album, also sell out stadiums, draw more attention on himself. He's a narcissistic asshole. But artistically, I feel like the trajectory of the album did change again. Like, I feel like it was a dedication to his mother. Then it was him flagellating himself about his marriage. Then it was him trying to save his family. Like, every time he put it out there, he was putting out something different.
It's
GL2. No, GL2 is just shitty. Like, fuck you. Like, fuck.
Marilyn Manson saying "Guess who's going to jail tonight" is some real sicko shit. Like,
I think it's hilarious. I think that's funny. I think that's Kanye humor. That's Kanye humor, though. It is.
No, it's not. It's not funny. We can't let that slide. Come on. I mean, and I don't disagree with. I don't even think it doesn't sound bad. I don't even mean that. I just mean I can't listen to that in like decent conscience, you know? Because honestly, Jail 2 might be better than Jail 1 in theory.
No, musically,
it is.
That doesn't matter though. The fucking disingenuousness behind it and just the juvenility behind. I'm gonna take DaBaby. I could like DaBaby said some shitty. He said some shitty shit. Fine. You put a DaBaby.
I don't think.
You put Marilyn Manson on there, that's different. This dude's a fucking actual sexual predator who hurt, like,
right.
That's a little different. That's a little, like, and I think Kanye was edgelording the fuck out of that and being like, oh, well, cancel me now, bitch. Like, okay. Like, did you really have to? Like, I mean, now I'm just, the more I talk, the stupider I sound, but you know,
it distracts from the album.
I mean, it tracks.
It's distract. Yeah, it's a distraction. It does not help this content to come across. I think he was making a big dumb joke out. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's a dumb joke. It is a joke, but it's a dumb joke. I get it. He wanted Marilyn Manson to sing "Guess Who's Going to Jail Tonight." He thought that was funny. All right, and he wanted to troll, and he succeeded because apparently people are listening to that version because DaBaby's on it. You know, like
right.
I get it. Like it's going to work for that in that sense. It's not going to age well.
Jay-Z having an asthma attack. I agree with that.
It's not going to age well.
DaBaby's verse sounds better, but there's also DaBaby being a hypocrite on it. So it's like
it's cringy as fuck. Yeah. No one feels sorry for you, dude. Like, go away. No one cares. I don't want to hear that from him. I have no interest.
Release the soldier remote control verse.
Oh my gosh.
That's the real controversy.
Fuck. Kanye fucking sabotages himself. He always does. And always does. I'm never surprised.
Single time. I can't think of a time he hasn't in my life. Like, I mean, after 808s, I mean, even graduation, he did the 50 Cent thing. He pulled that off well. But
true.
Yeah, when they like you, make them unlike you. You know, that's how he's been, and it's a real shame sometimes because it is keeping people from listening to Donda.
Because the music gets forgotten, but Donda will not be forgotten. Like, people, like, not every song on here is a classic, but overall, I think it's an excellent album.
I do too. I like it the more I think about it.
I like it a lot more now. When it came out, I thought it was mid. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was pretty middle of the road, kind of like the last two. And it grew on me within a day or two, but then it started. The songs that I really liked, I just liked more. But then some of the other cuts started to grow on me more too. I actually, I heard "No Child Left Behind" a lot in like the lead up to it.
Damn, yeah.
I really love that song. I like it a lot, kind of because he doesn't like talk on it, but it just sounds incredible. That's one of my favorite songs on here. "Coming to Life" has that beautiful piano on it. He sounds good on it. Obviously, Jesus Lord we talked about.
Honestly,
Moon I think
I got from the listening parties. I'm sorry to steamroll you, but was when the first thing he did with the listening party was do 24, and it's like God's not finished and all that, which I think was him talking about himself because he sees himself as God, and obviously. But I think it was also he had to do a live event as soon as he could after COVID to get everybody together and be like, we're going to be okay. we're going to be okay. And that's why he did that song for 6 minutes. That's what I got out of that.
Yeah.
And it's like this redemptive quality out of it. And I felt like he finally saw how he was going to use the choir in these songs. And then when I hear the album, I hear that. I hear him harnessing that in these songs.
Yeah, my interpretation of the God's Not Finished line is just work in progress as people, Kanye as a person. That's how I interpret it.
Not complete.
Not complete. I'm not complete. God's not finished. There's still hope for me. I'm a fuck up. That's how I interpret it. And I find that to be a very hopeful line. I was like, when I first heard that at the listening party, I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. The album as a whole didn't come across the best in the first listening party. Had a lot of potholes.
The first listening party was, but I think that was, again, a calculated strategy. I think that as we're seeing over time, that I think he was, first of all, waiting out Drake. Second, I think that he did this all on purpose. I think he did the mega shit on purpose too, and it got away from him. Like, he started saying shit that he didn't mean to say. I think that was like, I'm gonna shock people and say I'm for Trump, but then I'm gonna do this 2-hour interview with Charlemagne and say that I'm Trump tactics, Bernie Sanders politics. But nobody remembers that. Nobody remembers he says he was Bernie Sanders politics. So first of all, I don't think he is. I think if you have to listen to what Bernie Sanders is for, he's like, well, maybe not the wealth sharing. I'm not so much the sharing guy, but. But yeah, still, like, I think that's, as always with Kanye, he had an idea, it got away from him, but I think, unlike the past couple times, the music didn't.
Yeah. Because he sat down and made an album. And you know what was interesting here? And I know people are like, oh, why is he doing this listening party stuff? This is so weird. Like, how can you do this? How can you play an album in public?
It's the same shit he did for Pablo.
It's the same shit. It's the same thing that rock bands fucking do. You go on tour, you play your album. What the fuck? Like, why is this original? This isn't Kanye. This is not something he invented. The way he's doing this is original, but
he's touring the new
same shit.
Album. Like, yeah,
come on, like, yeah. So, I think it's really cool, actually. But I don't love how everything went.
Like, why is a band taking up a stadium? Like, what? They do this all the time. Don Henley did this every night. Yeah. What are you talking? Billy Joel does this once a month at Madison Square Garden. Go, like.
I remember when In Rainbows came out, was being toured. That shit got toured for a fucking year. I knew that whole album when it came out. It's just what people do.
Billy Joel, it's very true. That's super funny. That you
All right. So final question: where do we see Donda landing in Kanye's legacy?
I think. Well, real quick, I just want to say. Hurricane's amazing. I didn't touch on Hurricane enough. That song, when the choir comes in on the weekend part with the "Don't Let Me Down," I mean, that is just or "Don't Let Me Drown." That song's fucking beautiful.
Abel was the secret sauce. He really was. He brought it together.
I think that the little baby verse on that is amazing too.
It just
worked on. Like, that song took forever to come together. Like I said, he's been working on that since '90, and I think that was, if you were in the Discord during listening party 2, that's when I came around fully. I was like, he finally finished this fucking song. I'm so happy. It took him forever, but he finally did.
Yeah, the Lil Baby continues his tradition this year, just rapping his ass off on all these records. So yeah, that's an unbelievable song. And Pure Souls, the Roddy crushed that. So I just wanted to mention some other parts from the album that I like.
Pure Souls has momentum. That song is cool. Like, it builds and builds, and it earns every one of its 6 minutes. It's great.
Yeah, no, that song is great. And I wasn't for someone that isn't like a huge Kid Cudi stan, I think Moon is an awesome song. So,
yeah, it's beautiful.
I think Moon is absolutely gorgeous. I think it's up there with Reborn. I absolutely love the way Cudi delivers that. It feels so heartfelt.
Yeah, I mean, don't leave so soon is a great lyric. So
yeah,
yeah, that's beautiful. Shout out to that song. Shout out to Don Toliver. Overall, in Kanye's legacy, I'm gonna disappoint you guys. I don't think it's top 5.
No,
that doesn't disappoint me. I mean,
that's not to do. We're talking about a legend here, like top 5.
I mean, I read Patrick's review. I
said
thought
it might be. It's still, like, if you look at my ratings for him, I have a lot more 9s and 10s than I do 8. That's the thing, is I rate Kanye way higher than I do most artists. That's the thing. I spend a lot of time defending this man I've never met. So,
right.
I think it's solid B tier, So it's like there's the top 3 for me, which is Twisted Fantasy and College Dropout and Late Registration. Those are the masterpieces. Nothing tops those. Those are my 3. Then there's the next tier, which is like Yeezus and Life of Pablo and Kids See Ghosts.
Yeah,
and maybe Graduation, maybe. And then Donda would be next.
I mean, the thing is, I wouldn't put... The thing is, Dropout hit me at the point where it should have been top tier, but I don't revisit so many songs from it as I do Kids See Ghosts or Pablo.
That's
but
fair.
It's hard. It's difficult because I think Kids See Ghosts probably should be top tier because I think every song on there except for Fourth Dimension is top tier. And Fourth Dimension's only not top tier because I can't take it seriously. Because
I love that song.
Oh no, I love it, but then it's just like you listen to it and it's like Kanye's.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's a blast. I love it.
Oh no, it's hilarious, but it's just
I think Fire's the weakest song on that album, my opinion.
I love the way Kanye raps on that. He creeps up on the beat.
Yeah.
You do what you said. Like, I love that. Whereas like Fourth Dimension is just like, I mean, I love it for that reason, but it's like, I mean, I think that's also why it works though. It's like a release valve because otherwise it's a pretty serious album, and then you have that's the one.
Reborn's next. Yeah, it's heavy.
Sessions really works because otherwise it's just like he had one horny verse for every album he put out. Again, we said this on another podcast. Thank God he didn't have something horny on Cop Shot the Kid because that would have been really out of place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I think overall my top tier would be Twisted Fantasy, Yeezus, Late Registration, personally. But I think when it comes to Donda, I would put it behind most Kanye albums, but ahead of the previous 2.
Yeah, so you would put it at the top of the bottom tier. Like, it's still bottom tier for you, but it's like at the head of the bottom tier.
I don't think because I think the bottom tier is just those 2, and those 2 are just like kind of mid albums to me with great highlights. And I think with Donda, I think it's very solidly a good album, oftentimes very good, oftentimes extremely frustrating with some of the stuff. I wouldn't say oftentimes, sometimes extremely frustrating. But I'm already improving on it, so I think it could reach great for me, like in time. But right now, I still think it's a very good record. And I would put it in the Graduation 808s tier, although I do like those albums. I definitely like Graduation a smidge more. I would probably say I like 808s a smidge more as well.
I like Donda more than 808s, and I like Donda more than for me. Jesus is kind of its own tier, kind of low tier, and then like Cruel Summer and Watch the Throne are kind of like in their own sort of tier with Ye. Although I like Ye more than either of you two. It's like a 7, whereas Donda's like an 8.5.
Donda's definitely an 8 tier. I would say that I have Watch the Throne's probably a 7. Watch the Throne's like here. My rating on that fluctuates.
Yeah, it has not aged well.
Cruel Summer's first 6 songs are like a 9, and then it falls the fuck off.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's a great EP, but as an album,
falls the fuck off, and then they have the Chief Keef remix at the end.
Right. Just kind of put it together.
After Mace shows up, it just dies.
And Kids See Ghosts is solid 8.5 tier 2. The 10s are like
Kids See Ghosts is a 10 for me just because emotionally it means a lot for me, but it's like I can understand why otherwise it would not, because it's very specific.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
So
in terms of relating to like the mental health aspect and about like friendship and overcoming all this with your relationships, I think it's fucking powerful. Just needs a little more meat on the bones. I think for me to put it up there with, I think I'd even put it ahead of, like I said, it's A tier for me. I would put it with Yeezus and with Life of Pablo.
It's weird because it's completely different than Yeezus though, because Yeezus is so cold, removed, and narcissistic. Yeah. But they're both also kind of sister albums.
High level.
They're both very like concise in what they're trying to do.
Yes.
So like musically, they're sister albums, but emotionally, they're completely opposite.
And I would say, a hot take, I think Life of Pablo is his 4th best. I think that one's just outside the S tier.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I think that one's
not disagree.
I would agree.
Amazing.
My top 4 is Pablo 4, Registration, Yeezus, Fantasy. I would put that as my top 4. I think I don't know if I'll get there. Every day I don't say every day. I don't really listen to a lot of Kanye albums anymore, but Yeezus is definitely top 2.
It's funny. I listen to those first 2 a shit ton. You know why I listen to the first 2 all the time? Because they make me feel good. Like, as like an inspirational kind of like pick myself up. Dude, I listen to Last Call. I feel like taking on the world. And
true. Last Call.
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
Last Call's inspiring. I find Kids See Ghosts inspiring.
Yep. I listen to Kids See Ghosts a lot these days. It's so easy. You just throw it on. It's like 24 minutes.
True.
You know?
And I just feel like it's kind of an unfair question to say, where do you place Donda? I was just saying, where do you see Donda in the future? But
pretty damn good. I think when you go back to the music itself, I think it'll age really well because it's done such a good job of synthesizing the things that we like about Kanye. And in terms of the content, let's say Outside of Jail Part 2, the content is really inoffensive. It's so sad that I have friends of mine who are like, I'm not going to listen to it except fuck Kanye. But like, you really get to the music, there's nothing that would turn anybody off. I think there were more MAGA bars on the last 2, or something that you could like, project your feelings about Kanye onto it. Really not. If anything, this is in a very similar headspace to albums like 808s, which is what I was waiting for. And I got it. And I love this album for that reason, although I would trim it, but not that much. So I think it'll age really well, but we'll see.
We will see. And I feel like it's probably one of his most emotionally honest projects overall. But I guess it will come with time, because he might change course in a week and come out with something that redacts all of this. So that's why we're hoping to get this out there for the record, and then we'll look stupid in a week when he patches this and we have Consequence on Life of the Party saying shit dissing us. So, all right, Trav.
If only, please put Life of the Party on this album.
If nothing else, if you get nothing else out of this, we need a CD quality of Life of the Party. Possibly get rid of the Drake bars, but please keep every second of the Andre verse. Travis, please. As always, absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
Living off borrowed time, and our outro music, as always, is Stagnate Pace by Kanye. See you next time.
It ain't gonna never stop. 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 It ain't gonna never stop.
Time will tell. Time is yet to be conquered by man. But when the time is right, perhaps the greatest revelation of all time will dawn upon us.